Welcome, friends, to Tanked Up, our end of year special. I'm one of your hosts, Ben, here with Lucy.
I'm Santa Claus.
And Aadil.
Hey, I am not Santa Claus, but I
You're
have been
Jesus.
called Brown Jesus. Yeah.
Exactly. For everyone not watching us on video and just listening to the lovely podcast version that we put out, we're all Christmas themed, obviously, from what we've just said. So come on over to the YouTube, to the Twitch, for, antics, for fun, each and every week as we put out episodes. This episode is coming to you probably in the week between Christmas and New Year, when we're having a week off, and we've recorded this early, but it is our end of year extravaganza where we run through our favourite games of this year. If you've listened to us before and have heard one of these episodes, you will know that we kind of don't always do like very rigid, specific top 10s. Last year we did themes and had sort of categoried games, but this year we've tried to collate a little on the games that we have enjoyed this year. So this is probably the most definitive kind of top games of the year we've done
Of all time in any publication.
Exactly. That's it. You'll never find a more
Wretched
accurate
hive of scum and villainy.
Sorry. That's true. Let's open some beers. Aadil, why don't you kick us off today?
Sure. I'm going to start off with the Wrongfully Accused.
Ooh.
From Cervecera Peninsula. It's a West Coast IPA. It's 6%. They are in Madrid. They're from Madrid. That's where their brewery is. And it says Agua, Malta,
Water, malt.
Polo
Yes.
y Levadura.
Yes. That is as far as my Spanish goes.
Yep.
Water. We know there's water.
Agua.
Water and
Agua.
malts.
Yeah. Nothing else.
I only know that from No Country for Old Men. That's
What, malts?
no water. Just agua. Agua.
But I really like the shiny red finger pointing on the can
that's
art.
good.
It's very. I mean, sure, I guess wrongfully accused, but I'm drinking this because Lucy wrongfully accused us of having bad lists.
No, I wrongfully accused you of murder, but that's another story.
Ooh.
Was it wrongful? I mean, yes, of course, it was wrongful. Yeah.
Good. Crack it open. I'm kind of trying to be a little bit up and a little bit down this week with my beers, so I'm coming up to Birmingham first,
Oh!
and I'm going to drink a beer from Dig. Dig Brew, which you can't really read because they've gone the whole metal sludge sort of route with their logos. But this is Mount Rainier, which is a Chinook, Enigma, Eldorado, and Motueka 6% beer. Does it tell me what kind of beer it is? It's an IPA. There we go.
No, it's all going wrong.
Oh no, is it
That
fizzed
was
up
mine.
and spilt?
I tried to open my beer for can opener, and the can opener is stuck on the beer.
Oh no. Oh no.
all
We've started
going
off amazingly well, as we do almost every single
How's your beer,
week.
Ben?
I've-
What's the Dig Brew code?
I'm yet to open it. Here's the can. I haven't
I
cracked
got
it.
on my fancy chair.
Oh no, beer everywhere. I'm
Obviously.
gonna crack mine. Hopefully it won't fizz and explode everywhere. But ooh, it did. It did.
What? Oh! You only
Oh,
get this
Jesus
from the end of the year
Christ.
podcast.
What the fuck's going on today? That's okay.
Yeast.
That's okay. We won't worry about it. We'll just drink these. Drink them instead. Lucy, what are you drinking?
I was just about to say, Ben, you are a big advocate for Dig Brew Co.
Yes.
I should have more of their beers.
I really like Dig.
straight up, yeah.
They've got a really good quality to them.
I haven't had them in years, and I should go to their tap room and have their beers.
Well, it was trying to think. Well, I'll get a Birmingham beer for this week, and there was the bottle shop had a bunch of Dig beers in, but also had a load of Glasshouse ones in as well, which we've had on the podcast before, and I went for Dig. I think just because, but whilst the beers from Glasshouse have always been good, I think every time I've had a beer from Dig, it just hits right. So I thought,
Right.
yeah.
Right? Yeah.
I don't know. I don't really see their cans up here. at all, which is quite bizarre. It's either that or I've seen them and I'm just like, I am not paying £7 for a brewery that's around the corner. It's either that, it's either one of the two.
Yeah.
But yeah, I should have some more of their beers. But I'm glad they're advocates outside of Birmingham. I mean, I do have a Bristol beer. I could just smash back an Arbor later,
Nice.
if I wanted to. But right now,
Always.
yeah, right now I'm gonna have a beer from Holy Goat Brewing. It is Holy Goat are from Dundee. It's a 7.5%. Flanders Red with red currants and black currants, and it's called Blood Incarnation.
Oh, I like the name.
So I'm sacrificing to the goat gods, Baphomet himself, and yeah, I saw this a few weeks ago on Left Field Beer, and I was just like, you know what? I don't remember the last time I had a Flanders.
Mm.
I've been saving it for a few weeks for this moment. So yeah, hopefully it's good.
Nice. We will roll back round to you then, Aadil, for the wrongfully accused.
It's hazy. It's a nice orangey, slightly yellow, orangey yellow color. Pour when excellent after the crack. For some reason, pour was fine. I'm getting really lovely some slight citrus, and there's what is that? Almost a pininess underneath underneath something. Well, I can't pinpoint it.
It'll come to you as you drink it through, perhaps.
Oh, it's very smooth. Can't quite tell it's 6%, except a bit of thickness in the mouthfeel. Otherwise, it's just and it's just a full flavor. Yeah, it's not too sweet. That citrus is there mostly pushing bitter citrus, but not quite grapefruit, like not tart or like sour. It's also got some passion fruit. What is that? That my brain isn't finding a flavor.
Okay.
It's the same thing from the nose that's in the taste. It's an interesting. I'll just hope my brain gets there, but talk about the rest. It's got this really interesting finish where not a lot. It's actually quite. My brain's coming up with the word somber. It's not a very boisterous beer, and it doesn't have much of a curve, in the sense of it's not like the actual like it has a transition from beginning, mid to finish, but it's like it's like a mound. It's like what you like the difference regular like normally with beers we have quite a substantial difference like. And if you think of like topography, Canadian mountains versus British mountains is what I'm saying. This one's quite flat.
You're in the foothills.
Yeah. There we go. Yeah. And it mouthfeel wise, it's a bit wet or a bit neutral. But it does sort of, because it's such a small curve, there's just not a lot going on in the finish. It's not terribly bitter. I'm not getting a lot of the nothing's lingering that much, and it feels a bit dried out. So I'm already trying to. At first, I thought I was reaching for it to try and figure out that like missing taste that I can't pinpoint. But actually, it's also because it's kind of beckoning me back because I want more, I guess.
Right.
So now that I've had a few sips, I am getting a bit of a sweetness to the start, and coupled with that citrus, it kind of feels like now that I've had a navel orange sweetness, to the start, but it doesn't last that long. Yeah, what is this? What is this bitterness? Anyway, I might interrupt one of you guys. My brain's. Full confession.
You'll grow into
I'll get
it.
there.
It's fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I was also drinking until 5 a.m. last night.
Good.
Well, I was out until 5 a.m. I wasn't drinking until 5 a.m.
You were
So that
drinking
might have
till
affected my.
8 a.m.
Yeah.
Yeah. You'll grow into it. You are a wordsmith,
Mhm.
so we know it will come.
Absolutely. Nice. Okay, on to the dig. This is a lovely beer. But like Aadil, there's something in here which I cannot quite put my finger on. It's got a very, very nice straw colour to it. It did pour with a sort of a couple of fingers of white foamy head, but that dissipated really, really quickly. I don't know whether it's quite carbonated. You can tell that straight on the flavour as well, that it's really carbonated. Pushing a lot of that flavour really, straight away as soon as you sip it. And I think that's what's kind of dissipated the head, everything, all that carbonation just rushed straight up. But the nose is lovely. It's sort of a little bit of sweet candy, lots of tropical fruit in there as well. But it's very, very light. So you get all of those, even though it doesn't punch you. And the flavour feels very similar. It's not a massive, big hit of flavour, but instantly I'm getting this lovely, lovely sweetness. And it's a little kind of candy, but there's an orange, a slightly more sour orange to it. And that sour orange kind of overtakes the sort of the more sweet candied flavour to it. So as it sort of develops, I'm left much more with this. I suppose it's more like blood orange than anything. It's kind of got this nice sweetness, but this lovely sourness to it as well. And it's a beer where, as I was talking about this carbonation, that absolutely pushes that initial flavour, but that dissipates really quickly in your mouth as well. So you're just left with this nice, quite light, sort of soured orange, slightly soured candy, sweet sort of flavour, which lingers and lingers and lingers and lingers. And it's really soft. It's I suppose about maybe 5 degrees at the moment. They don't, I think, give a, unlike other cans, I don't see, it's very hard to see the text on the back of most of Dig's beers. But one point of interest is that on the front of this, it says it's got Chinook, Enigma, Eldorado, and Motueka. And on the back, it says it's an IPA hopped with Mosaic, Enigma, and Ernest.
Ernest?
So Mosaic, USA, Enigma, Australia, and Ernest, but UK.
As in Ernst and Young.
Yeah, like Ernst, yes, but
Okay. New one that I haven't heard of.
Yeah, but strange that it lists those three on the back and then different hops on the front. Apart from the, the Mosaic and the Enigma stick around, but Chinook, Eldorado, which it says on the front, don't then appear on the back. So I'd like to know what the actual, composition of the beer is and what the hops are in this, because it's lovely. It's very, very easy.
Mark down right now and demand it. Yeah.
Breaking the podcast. No one gives a shit about our end of year things, but they're only here to know exactly what's in this beer. But yeah, it's really, really easy, like incredibly so.
Nice. That looks proper murky and.
It is murky. It's a nice straw colour, but it is very, very murky, and it could almost, Aadil, I think, is it either last week or the week before you had a sour IPA?
Yeah.
And if they'd have put sour IPA on the front of this can, I would absolutely say, yeah, okay, I get what they're going for. It's just got that little sourness to it, which really works for this beer, with that initial sweetness that it provides. So yeah, really, really good.
I'm wondering if sour IPA is just like a Trojan horse too. It's not as fruity as we want it to. It's slightly sour.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know what happened. A bit of lactobacillus or something got in there, and just sour IPA.
Almost anything where you've got that slightly ripe grapefruit flavour, which can go, either a bit soured or a bit kind of like piney and bitter. Like, went the soured way. Sour IPA. Perfect. That's what we were going for. It's fine.
Yeah.
I'm gonna jump in before Lucy because I figured out the things. It's a soapiness. And I think maybe like coriander seed, maybe, but closer to just generic soapiness. And it's a lot maltier than I like. I was trying to figure out the hop side of the taste that I wasn't noticing just how much the malts were sort of escorting that light citrus and that soapiness through. And that's the missing link is that it's quite malty for a West Coast IPA. It's only lightly citrusy. Like I'm not sure. I wouldn't have pegged this as a West Coast IPA given its taste, but it's nice to have sort of something much more malt forward in an IPA. It's interesting, but that was, was just so trying to be like, okay, so what are these what might these hops be, and what are they doing? It's like, oh no, wait, it's the other thing.
Yeah, I get you. Like earlier today, I was out having a drink, and the one that I kept going back towards was a West Coast IPA, which was very malty and very bitter. And it's just like, yeah, it's this. Sometimes it's like, maybe I'd probably go for a NEPA rather than the West Coast IPA, but that was very nice. It was just like, yes, more bitter and more malt forward, but still having that like kind of texture of a good bold IPA. So it's just like, yeah,
nice.
Sometimes you need that now and then.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bit of bitterness.
What about the beer you're drinking now?
The Flanders.
Oh, look how red it is.
Yeah, it's quintessential Flanders. It's like reddish brown. It's quite deep red. It smells great. You can smell all black currants, all those berries on it. It's sort of, it kind of brings me back. I don't know if any of you have been stung by like nettles.
Yeah.
But that kind of nettly smell, it's got that in abundance. It's sort of like that very outdoorsy. I guess it's outdoorsy, but like very herbaceous kind of like smell. It smells like nettles. It's like if I get too close, my nose is gonna get stung. Yeah, it smells
that will make
so
drinking
much
it a bit difficult.
Just a tingly tongue for the entire beer.
Yeah, it's got like a kind of peppery kind of to it as well. So yeah, it looks great. It smells fantastic.
And I suppose it's more that kind of like torn herb smell, isn't it? It's not just like a herb. It's like when it's been ripped and kind of ground down slightly. Yeah.
This is from like Dundee. Let's remember, but it's really good. It tastes really good. It's not too sour. I expected it to be more sour, which is not in a way that it's like I'm disappointed, but in a way it's like this is so much more drinkable. Where it's like, yes, you're not puckering at every sip. It's very drinkable. You're still getting that fruit. Go for another sip. It's sort of got this kind of like very like hay-like and taste to it as well. It just feels very earthy without it being too earthy when you think of a, let's say, red ale or a
right.
Where it's like deep and earthy. It's got more of a very hay-like, more of a like hedgerow kind of like, as I say, nettly kind of. I'm tossing out all the words now, but it's very like, okay, you've just started grazing at the top of the grass rather than going too far down the stem and eating all the earthy, dirty parts. It feels very fresh, but it still has that kind of like moorish, herbaceous kind of taste to it. It's really nice. It's got a really good depth of flavor without being too sour, too fruity. It's got a good balance to it. I think I poured the whole glass in here, and it's not gonna. Yeah, it's really good. And for a Flanders, where it's like you expect that sourness, it's not too sour. It's not overly sour. I mean, of course, my palate is more used to sour beers than most people, but I think a lot of people could drink this and enjoy it, get that fruitiness from it as well. But yeah, this is a fantastic beer.
Brilliant. Nice. Have you had anything, or Aadil, have you had anything from Holy Goat Brewing before?
No, but I'm gonna seek it out.
Yeah, that's really good. That's really good. It's not too carbonated, not too hoppy. It's very soft, but it's still got a bit of zest to it. It's still got a bit of zippiness off the hops. So, yeah, that's a cracking beer.
Nice.
Really good.
Did
they? I might as well just go get the Arbor now and smash it back because it's ain't gonna last long.
Did they have many beers from Holy Goat?
Yeah, I had. What did I have from them? Was it a beer called the Gnosis or something? I'll have to look into it. But I bought a few from them. I think 2 or 3 beers from them recently. Might have been something called the Gnosis, GNOSIS.
Yeah, so they're definitely doing the Holy Goat as in Holy Ghost
Yeah.
sort of religious bend.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm conflating it in my head because I recently bought beers from Tartarus Brewing, and they're very much doing the Achilles and
Right.
the Greek pantheon in there. So it's like getting those two mixed up. But yeah, I think I had the Gnosis from them. But yeah, this one definitely sticks out more than that one. This is a fantastic beer. To take on a style like Flanders Red is no, small feat, and they've knocked it out of the park. It's really good.
Brilliant.
And it poured really nice. It poured with like a slightly off-white, creamy head, so it looks great in the glass as well. So all round, really good.
Perfect. Good. Some excellent beers then to start us off with, and for the next 45 minutes or so, the whole episode today is dedicated to our favourite games of this year, but we're going to roll through quite quickly. I think we all did lists of top 10. We're probably going to roll through quickly the first half of those lists because there are some absolute bangers in our top 5s that crop up between sort of a few of us. So we'll start off, and I think I will just kick straight in.
Honourable mentions.
Oh yes, honourable mentions. Go on then.
Yeah.
Go on then, Lucy.
Yeah, I'm literally going to read all of mine on.
Yep.
I played a lot of indie games this year. I think this is a year where it was like, okay, the AAAs haven't really turned up. Indies probably rise to the top in this kind of year, but I play indies every year, so this is no different. But these are some of the ones that I enjoyed. So if anyone wants to check them out, just remember their names and go check them out on Steam.
Get your pen and paper ready, listeners.
Yes. Sizable. Nuts. A surveillance mystery. The one with the squirrels.
Oh, the squirrel one.
The good Foley squirrel one. Rain on Your Parade. Turnip Boy Commits Tax Evasion. Disc Room. The Dark Side Detective 2. Papachora, I think that's how you say it. It's on Steam. It's a point and click, made completely out of paper, stop motion kind of thing. Very good. The Wild at Heart, which I think Aadil played, the indie Pikmin. Omno, which is on Game Pass still. I think it's like a kind of 3D platformer. Axiom Verge 2, Golf Club, Wasteland, The Last Stop, which Ben, I know you played a little bit of it. Very mixed reviews, but it's very British, so
yeah,
that's great. If on a Winter's Night for Travelers, which I briefly spoke about on the podcast. I think I just told people to go play. It's free, very atmospheric point and click
you did, yeah.
game. Very good art. Happy game. Amanita design. Just say more. Wrote a review for it.
That's on the site,
Nuclear Blaze. Yep. Minute Fun Racer, which I know you like, Ben.
That was a fun game.
Cypher the Circle, which technically came out last year, but I finished it on Apple Arcade this year. It's a really good, like, Cold War kind of really ramping up the tension kind of narrative game. All of You, also on Apple Arcade. And Lake, which is
nice.
set in like the Pacific Northwest, where you're actually just delivering mail. It's very quaint and weird, and I enjoyed it. So yeah, those are my honourable mentions.
Perfect. Aadil,
Thank you.
launch into your honourable mentions.
Yeah. So I would say Wild at Heart was on there. Honestly, I just wanted to say I finally, I a few months ago, I picked up Link's Awakening, the remake, and it grabbed me enough for me to actually restart it and finish it essentially. So that I think, for an old game and not my favorite version of a game, it's still worth mentioning because even the sort of bad version was enough to like, it's still a great Zelda game, right?
Yeah.
And then the game I played today, which I won't talk a lot about because I know you will, is I am a few moves through unpacking and I get it and it's awesome.
Cool.
So I just wanted to chime in to say it's not on my list, and that's because I literally played it today.
Okay, if we're doing that, then Before Your Eyes, because I literally played it yesterday. It'll be one that I sit with for a long time, but it's a late entry, so this is why I'm glad Aadil's there, so he can talk about it. So.
Yep.
I also, like clockwork, started speaking a bit loudly and excitedly, and now I have to let the cat out because he's yelling.
Do it. I mean, I can launch into my honourable mentions. I played a lot of good games this year, but as a very light spoiler, a few of the games on my list I didn't finish, but I felt that the time I'd spent the time I'd spent with them kind of just picked these games out a little bit to the top 10. So kind of honourable mentions, I would say, is Humankind, good RTS, not great. I went back to Crusader Kings 3 instead, so that tells you what you need to kind of know about Humankind. The Iki Island expansion to Ghost of Tsushima, it's more Ghost of Tsushima. It's fun. If you love that game, yeah, play that. It's really fun. 12 minutes. I really liked 12 minutes when it released, and I think the more I think about it, the kind of the less I feel good about with it. There's more problems than I think I initially thought about with it.
That was the other one that I wanted to get to before the end of the year, and I do want to get to it. So, but yeah, that's natural. You feel differently about art over time.
Absolutely.
So it's like,
completely. And the last one is Haven, which was the Game Baker's game where you are two characters kind of stranded, and you're third person sort of action-ish kind of game. Absolutely, really great kind of. It's not a dating sim, but it has those elements to it, right? You're in a relationship, so it has elements of trying to appease each other and doing stuff together, and kind of the narrative between the two characters was really, really good. But again, I think there's a few games which just picked it for me, which I haven't finished. And one of those, and I will launch into this one now, because I'm going to say almost zero about it, because I talked about it very recently, is Resident Evil Village, Resi 8.
You like Lady Dimitrescu and you want her to step on you. We get it.
I mean, when she chases you around that fucking castle, you shit your pants. Like, it's a game that I have played where I actually have jumped in.
Oh.
One of those games where suddenly something will just catch you off guard. Even when I'm like, I know something's coming, I know something's coming, I know something's coming. Oh, there it is. And it still gets me. And that just works really well. The sound design is fucking fantastic. And as I talked about previously, the lighting is just amazing. That engine is phenomenal. So like Resi, I think it's one of those games that would have featured higher on my list had I have kind of finished it, because I'm really interested to know how it progresses, whether it sticks the landing, all of these kinds of things. And I think I've played a little bit more since we last spoke about it. And when I was talking about, I'm suddenly in a space where they've given me little places to hide in. The thing that is coming after me is fucking horrifying.
Yeah, I know the part that you got to when we were
Yeah.
just about to talk. When
And
I was like, "Where are you, man? You're the creepy little doll child." And I was like, "I know what you're coming up
yep.
to next."
And I was playing it the other night. I came downstairs after putting Evelyn to bed. Kim was upstairs. I played a little bit, and I'm like, and that's when it kicked in. And I'm like, oh, I fucking hate this. It's horrible. I've just got to go, and I've got to do this. Blah 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 blah.
I just
And
stayed poker face and just like
exactly. But
after that.
I hid, and Kim said, "Hey, let's go and do something." I'm like, "Yes, but just listen to this." And I unpaused it, and all she could hear was
Don't
this
let her listen
horrid,
to that.
horrid
Oh, no.
noise. And she's like,
No.
"Nope,
You're
absolutely
awful.
fucking
You're
not. Turn that
awful
off.
husband.
It's just disgusting." I'm like, cool, all right, no worries. And I've left it there. So you know, I'm really interested to see kind of how it progresses. But we'll stick with
Nice.
our. Oh, go on, Luce. Sorry.
No, I'm just saying nice. I'm glad you're enjoying that. Yeah.
Yeah. Lucy, we will come to you next.
Yeah.
I've got so. This is going to be difficult because I'm going to come to each
We're going
person
back
and say,
to
"What's your next game?" And it's
2016.
going to be like, "Oh, I can't say that because it's going to be the next one." I will launch you in, I suppose, because I've got the ultimate list. Lucy, Hitman 3.
Yeah, I haven't even finished it. Like you, I haven't finished this game, but it wouldn't be a Lucy list if Hitman doesn't rank somewhere. It's, I think I don't know how many missions there are. I imagine 6. I'm probably on the 4th. I go back to it, you know, now and then.
Mhm.
I don't think anything will have the impact that Hitman 2016 had on me, but
Yeah.
they're still such fun games, and they're games that it's like, okay, I haven't played it in 9 months, but I'm still so attuned to how the game plays and the rhythm of it, and then when I start playing it, it's like, okay, I play it for like 20 hours. It's like I spend 20, 30, 40 hours in one map because they're so well designed. And I just finished Berlin. Spent several hours on that. I wasn't a fan of the second one, which I think was like in London, like this Knives Out kind of mansion. So I, I I think I'm on like the 4th mission out of 6. But yeah, they're just fantastic games, and knowing that they're gonna release some more content for it, because Hitman 2, the DLC maps were probably the best out of like, you know, out of if you're taking it as like 8 separate missions, they were like probably in the top 3 or 4 out of that whole game. So it's like, it's exciting to hear that they are still working on it, because they're making a James Bond game which is going to be exactly the same as Hitman. It's just with whoever the next James Bond is, maybe reskin him like Spider-Man did with Tom Holland, and that's all it's going to be. Because yeah, but it's just like, that's what it is. So it's like, cool, go do that, go make even more money, because IO deserves all the money in the world, because they're fantastic developers. The stuff that they do, the tech, the engine, like playing it on Xbox Series X, it's just, I mean, the game already looked fantastic, but it's just even better, and it runs so well. And it's just like, yeah, I have to put it on my list because it's the game that I've probably played the most of this year, despite having like 9 months in between play sessions.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. I mean, you can make someone slip off like the top of the Burj Khalifa on a banana peel.
That's the joy of Hitman, isn't it? Like the absurdity of it. It's like, this is
fantastic.
a super serious stealth assassination game, and I'm dressed as a fucking chicken, and I'm gonna make you slip on a banana skin off of the tallest building in the world.
Yeah, it's like I tried to do that on the Berlin map, I think. Because this guy was going on, you know, he was walking on this promenade, and he was very close to the edge. And I was like, can I do this? Can I put the banana peel? Will he slip off the edge? He didn't. But that's not the point of it. Okay, there's limitations to the sandbox. But the fact that you can even think of that, and after he like fell over and some other guy came and picked him up, they were like, who did that? It's like, it's just a banana peel, mate. Why are you looking for people? But after he did that, it's like, I still managed to assassinate him after that in a ridiculous way, because I like literally threw a sticky bomb at his back. Just blew him up. It's just, it's a funny sandbox. Those games are great. Yeah.
Nice.
I
Good.
loved it, man. Mhm.
And Aadil, as your sort of number 10, Final Fantasy 14.
Yeah, I thought about games that like grabbed me and I stuck with, and when we played a bit earlier this year,
Mm.
I was like, oh, I remember playing games with friends, and also why like it's like number 10 mostly because I enjoyed the plot. I also played a lot more than you,
Mhm.
because I didn't have as much things in my life to do, and like I realized that I was like I caught the MMO bug, but it was mostly honestly like between like free levels and like XP bonuses and stuff and the plot being good. I was just leveling, like I ended up having to switch jobs to stay within the level range of the plot. And
Mm.
I just ended up lapping, like I had 3 jobs above at around 50 by the time I was like, maybe I should stop because this won't end anytime soon. But also you weren't playing and I realized, okay, now I'm just grinding this game. But like I put it there because it was like for a while there, and if I was like in a more stable place where I think I could control spending, like catching up to the plot of this MMO, and apparently this is the badly written part of the plot of FF14. I just think like, oh yeah, this is a good game. It's very friendly to new players because of the it's free until level 60, including the award-winning expansion Heavensward, which is what all the advertisements say. um,
What
This is
about
the
this
good bit. Get to the good
Endwalker,
bit.
though?
Well, yeah, but it's just like, oh, you can play it by yourself, and you can play it like it's just an RPG, and there's people happen to be around, and like when you do need to do a dungeon because they've optimized things and incentivized people coming to low-level dungeons in other jobs or for what other reasons, you don't have a problem. Obviously, it was much easier when I was playing like a healing class. Um, because that's just how MMOs work, right?
Mhm.
But I think it was good, and like I honestly, when I was thinking about the year, I was like, oh wait, I actually might. It's not a powerhouse needing game. I might go and try and play some of that plot. Maybe pick a month to just turn it on and be like, it's. I think I'll go back to it, and that's when I was like, I think I'll put it on the list because I played a bunch, then took a break, and I don't have any hard feelings for an MMO, which is very rare.
Mhm. Mhm.
And it was
I'm
either
gonna
that
have
or I
to.
said Outriders. I mean, I spent a lot of time on that, but that wasn't nearly as fun.
Yeah, I'd kick you off.
Yeah, I
I
know.
don't even have
There was no
control of this
way
call. I'd kick
Outriders
you
was
off.
gonna go
But
on.
yeah, I think me and you are gonna have to have a private conversation about what does this game look like? How do you put story in MMO? But we'll talk about that later because I don't even think I've seen a screenshot of. I've heard a lot about Fantasy 14. I'm glad it's thriving, but I thought it was like some top-down game. I played what is it called? Civil? Nina Freeman game where she played like Final Fantasy 12. Which is like a top-down look. I don't even know what Final Fantasy 14 looks like. This is how out of my wheelhouse this is. I'm
It's
glad
fine.
people are enjoying
Yeah,
it.
yeah. And
Yeah.
I think it's one of those that it may have appeared on my list had we continued playing. I think the thing I liked about it was playing a game with you
Yeah.
rather than necessarily Final Fantasy 14 itself. Yes, much better than Outriders, absolutely. But yeah.
And the thing is, yeah. And the thing is, because I had the extra time, and I was like, oh, I'll just continue, like, I'll play this other character, and I'll just do some of the plot from another nation, and then the plot got me, and you just like, we were pretty much trying to play together, and so we ended up so as soon as we could doing dungeons and things,
Mm.
and doing some of the plot. But yeah, I mean, you need to put the time in to grind those first 20 levels because the plot is an MMO in the first 20 levels, and like,
Mm-hmm.
but also
Seems
just
like it's worth it.
the fact that I was like, I switched to Ninja, and Ninja was a really cool DPS sort of mechanic, and it was very different handling than the other ones. And like the other jobs I played, it was just like, oh, not only can you switch with the same character, and you like it's pretty easy to do that, but also it feels different when you play each class. It's not just like, okay, so like older MMOs, it's like my like move rotation is 1, 3, 5, wait 6, hover over 5, you know, like. And now I'm this other class, and it's just like, okay, so it's 1, 4, 5, hover over 6. Like you're still kind of the like with the ninja, it's about combos. So you have to hit with a move in order to time to do another move, and the only way to like, but that only means you can break their like you can do things like they're charging up a move, and you can break them from that, which is really useful. And it just felt a lot more. It's not like it's the same style of moves I've seen in World of Warcraft and like even FF11, but the play style is very different between characters, and like the different healing classes really play differently. And it's like, if you just wanted a game with an interesting story and so far decent side quests, and you weren't trying to like rush to the finish, it's great, because then you're like, oh, I'm bored of doing this, so we'll switch jobs, and like you'll probably still be able to play, you know.
Not only is it an endless MMO, but you can play it with different classes.
Yeah, completely.
So it really
you
is
just constantly be endless.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's roll through these next games quite quickly. We've only got one number 9 because the other choices featured higher in the list, and Aadil, that was yours, which is Size Matters.
Yeah, I just think it's a fun little game.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a physics. I streamed it. I think you both jumped in.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that.
Ben, were you in the back seat with me? I think you might have been on that first look, or were we just
Okay,
typing
yes,
me?
yes.
I don't remember.
I don't remember.
Sure,
No, maybe we were just both in the room.
We were all present, but
yeah.
it was very
But yeah, it's
funny.
basically a little game. It's literally you're a scientist. It's for a first-person puzzle platforming, I guess. But the premise is you fucked up, and now you've got your experiment on you, and you're slowly shrinking, and you have to figure out. First of all, you have to figure out how to make the antidote by finding different formulas throughout the lab, finding the right ingredients in the lab, putting them together the right way, figuring out how to make. There's like different machines do different things. Some combine two different elements, and you have to find the recipe to be like, oh, to make palladium, you need these two things, and you need to get them to the machine and then wait. But every time you wait, you get like as you're slowly shrinking. That means that by the time you're getting close to finishing your job, you're starting to have to move the chair around to get up onto the lab bench to get things.
Physical slapstick in a game.
Yes,
which
absolutely.
Is very
and like using like desk drawers as a staircase, but then but because they're drawers, it's not like steps, so you can like fall like it's just dumb hijinks. And there's different ways you can play I played through basically on stream, and you can check it out on First Looks on the YouTube. But like there's different levels, and they have bigger lab, more complicated things, like you can if you work your way through all the levels.
It's a good sim game without being like stupid and cynical. Like
absolutely.
Yeah, and the one
Goat Simulator was, and what people are trying to emulate.
Yeah.
Generally,
like the only complaint I had is one level they started to make it so that you could both spill things and break beakers, but didn't really tell you how to fix beakers. And I was fine with the surprise, but then it turns out I just was spinning my wheels because I thought I had to do one thing with one machine, and I didn't. But other than that, and also once you play all the levels, you can make your own. Like you can just say, I want a big lab, and I want these rules and not these other rules, and I want to shrink even more, and I can give myself double jumps. Like the sandbox mode, once you've played through, it is really ridiculous. And like
I just remember you breaking the beakers on everything. Just like I have this perfect concoction there. Oops.
Just dropped it in the sink or on the floor, smashed it against the desk. Yeah,
very good game.
And you jump in the sink to pick it up, and you realize you've shrunk too much, so you can't get out of the sink. And you're like, well, I guess I'm dying here now. Yeah, it was just tons of fun, and like the whole game takes 2-3 hours, but it's well worth it.
Idea. Yeah.
And also, like, especially to be honest, like it like you guys can attest to this. You don't even have to be the one playing to enjoy it. Like it's definitely one of the like play with you / in front of your partner, or take turns or whatever. It's
nice.
It's just charming.
I'm glad you put that on your list.
Yeah.
It's just making me laugh.
It rolls quite nicely into my next game, which again is an incredibly fun game to play with really good physics, which is Deathloop. and I didn't finish it.
Down.
I didn't finish
We
it.
can't. It's a
But
loop.
Apparently that's a good thing because apparently the ending's a bit of a bummer.
so yeah, I mean, I think I found it was a bit of a bummer because actually, I really like the idea of going into these missions and just causing carnage and doing your big kick and knocking people off fucking cliffs and having incredibly good gunplay, really good gunplay. It's fantastic in terms of the actual sort of combat stuff. But I think it's almost bogged down a little bit by the puzzle kind of premise to it, like trying to have that perfect loop and those sort of elements, like go here, do this, so that can happen for the next bit, and then you're like, no, you failed. You've just got to try and do that again. Fine, a lot of games have that element to them. You fail them, you have to try and do that kind of bit again. But this kind of tries to allow it to be a bit more sandboxy. Like, yeah, you didn't do that this time, so maybe you could take a break and go somewhere else and try and uncover some more information and stuff. But at some point, you have to do that. You have to do that to progress. And that's fine, but it presents the game to you in a way that it's sort of, you can kind of do
More
what
freedom,
you want and be a bit more free, but actually you're quite set in the moves that you have to make.
Yeah,
Sure.
I've heard that sentiment a lot, like from Steph as well. It's
Yes, yeah.
they said exactly that, and it's just it doesn't seem as freeing as most arcane games, and I understand why they probably might have wanted to narrow it down a bit more because, that kind of sim, what do they call them in something sim, well, you can do whatever you want. It's like, the game reacts to you. I understand why they would probably want a narrative, narrow it down for people, especially on a, seems this game got a lot of, players, and it seemed like, I don't know, it's one of those, isn't it? It's like Dishonored. The people who love Dishonored, but it didn't hit that mainstream audience. Where this seems like it has more of a mainstream audience.
Yes, very much.
It kind of
fizzled a bit.
people either love it or hate it. So it
yeah.
alienates a lot of people. Who
Well,
probably,
like I ended up not
immersive
picking it
sim,
up
that's all.
because I heard the mixed reviews and like it was just like,
I'll wait till next year and try it out, and it might be.
It'll be on Game Pass at some point next year, I imagine. So yeah.
Literally a day, a year to the day it came out. That's
Lucy, we will come to you next for Pocket Watch.
Oh yeah, this is a Sock Pop. If you don't know them, they are a indie studio who are on Patreon, and basically, if you support their Patreon, you get a free game every month. They make very small games. That's how they sustain themselves. And they make some really inventive things. It's like, I don't support their Patreon, but I subscribe to their Patreon, so I see their updates on whichever games that they're gonna bring out next. I think, was it a year or two ago? I bought their game called Peach something, might be called Peach Quest or something like that, which was a top-down, kind of looks like Hidden Folks kind of adventure game, but they have all their games on like a Steam. You can get like a steal, especially in like a Steam sale nowadays. You can just play all their games that they put out, but they've got this very quirky, very kind of colourful art style, very cutesy. But they put out this game called Pocket Watch, which is basically a time loop game, like all the games this year.
Yep.
But you're playing as this duck on this island. You wake up on this island. It's sort of like Link's Awakening that we talked about before. You wake up on this island, and basically in so much time, this volcano is going to erupt and it's going to kill everyone on the island. It's going to end the game. And that's the end of the loop. And then in each loop you find ways of circumventing some things and, getting these new things in your inventory to expedite actions and activities. And it's a quintessential time loop game. But it's really cute. It's really inventive. It's like £3. It's got this like kind of top-down, sort of like the old Link's Awakening look. It's set in this very small kind of play area, so it's like, but it's got all these different. not possibilities because it's not very immersive. It's basically I need to do this and then I need to do this, and it's very there's certain things that you need to do. It doesn't have that kind of malleability where you can choose how to influence the time loop, but it's a really good and well made puzzle adventure game.
Nice.
It's like, okay, I need to do this and this and this and this and this. Things carry over in the time loop, so it's not like you're having to do it all in one run. But it's just very charming, very cute, and it's a good puzzle game. And it's, as I say, cheap, made by a very small team. And this is like one of their monthly games. Like sometimes they have these different developers, so it's like there's probably spending about 3-4 months on each game, but to be made in that kind of time and still be a really fun game, it's very, it's really good. So, and
nice.
I really enjoyed it. It was just something like, oh, I'm going to check out the next Suck Pop game because this appeals to my sensibilities. They make all sorts of games like multiplayer games, very physicsy based games, puzzle games. So yeah, I was just like, this is really cute, really good. So yeah,
good.
If anything, check out Sock Pop.
Yeah.
Nice. Really good.
Perfect. And to round out our number 8, Aadil, we'll come back to you for Fights in Tight Spaces.
Yeah, it's a game I played on stream and then took a while to come back to just because time.
It's just come out of early access. Literally last week. Yeah.
And so I've checked it out, not quite in its non-out of early access mode, but like about a month ago again. And I'm a sucker for a card game. It's a roguelike card game. Who cares about it doesn't matter what the premise is. You're a secret agent and you're going to hunt bad guys and similar. Yeah, you're John Wick basically, without the sad dog part. Thank God. But so you've got a map and it's sort of procedural generated, but the level will have certain spots and you go up, just like in Slay the Spire and all these other roguelike deck building games, and you choose a path and there'll be branching paths and some might have better places to bind more cards or have more fights, but maybe it'll be a harder fight and that might give you a reward. But what really cinches it is it's just fun to play and watch. The aesthetic is isometric-ish, sort of 3/4 top down, of rooms, and you can go in. Sometimes you can go in. So you're always just fighting in a room, and it might have multiple exits. And it's gonna be in a white with grayscale accents for tiles and borders and shading.
It's very stylish.
But you are a monochrome silhouette, besuited, black black silhouette character, and the enemies are various shades of red. And so you have this lovely red, black, white, very crisp, clean aesthetic. And every move you do, so you have movement cards and action cards and attacks and disarms and stuff, and it's all animated like John Wick, so it's all fluid, wire fu type nonsense. So it's really fun to watch even the most basic things, but also when you play 3 cards in a row that allow you to dodge a thing and then punch a guy, it just you feel like John Wick. It's very tight combat, and one of the ways you can kill someone is to knock them out of the room. It's fights in tight spaces. A kill condition is so you can have a guy who's got 20 health left and you're oh, I'm fucked. I was but if I do this, I can push a guy into him such that he'll now be in front of the doorway, and then I can jump kick him, and it will do 1 damage, and he'll have 19 health left, but he'll be knocked backwards.
Yeah. It's one I really want to get back to now that it's out of early access, because it's stylish, it's very tactical. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I think I think it's, so if you don't like roguelikes or you don't like card games, I think a nice analogy is if you don't like strategy RPGs, Into the Breach is great, even though it's a strategy RPG, because it's secretly a puzzle game. And I feel because of the tight spaces and the different win conditions, and because it's moving around a map it feels more puzzly than say like Slay the Spire or Monster Train or all these other ones, which are
Absolutely,
very
yeah.
much I'm like they're about using your cards effectively, and you're essentially like, I'm facing you, you're facing me. Like it's just like throw damage out. It's very much like there isn't a map to consider in most of these
Yeah.
games,
Mm.
and
Even
that's
though,
what makes this really fun. Is moving around, and you can have like different styles of decks, which are like
yeah,
very
like,
defensive, like jujitsu, sort of like I'm just gonna wait to find my
you get
opening,
like a
or it could just be
grappler who's just like who just throws people like a wrestler. Yeah,
yeah, or you
so
could be
good.
like, I've got this, like I'm a glass cannon, I've got a weapon, and as long as
Yeah.
I get them first, it'll be okay. But if they touch me, I'm going to die.
Yeah.
And like
Even though it's
it's
tight spaces, there's a lot of room for for planning and
Mm.
malleability and
yeah.
Different playstyles.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's so obviously I don't want to talk too much more, but it's fun. I like it. I want to play
Hmm.
more. It's a game I've gotten as far in as some of the other games, but like the base mechanics are great, and like the deck building is satisfying.
Nice, nice. We will. We're almost on the hour, but we will get in our number sevens before we launch into our next beers.
Mhm.
We will very quickly go through Lucy first. Number seven, Strange Land.
Yeah. The probably lack of time and the fact that it's a point and click narrative kind of adventure game probably does us a favor because it's I don't want to say too much,
Mm.
but it's a very it's like a point and click adventure that you'd find in like the late 1990s where it's got this really grungy looking pixel art. The pixel art is fantastic. I remember on our podcast you were looking at the Steam page, Ben, and you were like, "Is it
Yes.
pixel art?" It's like, yes, it is pixel art. It's just very detailed. Um, but yeah, very dark, very adult kind of themes. It has some um, really interesting, kind of subtext to it, and it's got a director's commentary. So it's like if you listen to that after the game, it's just like, yeah, you fully understand like the creative process and
Mm.
what went into the game. But yeah, it's just one of those. I think it helped that I played it pre-release, and it was like there's no walkthroughs. I have no walkthroughs. I'm
Mm.
sure I could go back to the person who supplied me a code, but it's like it just reminded me of playing like this weird, point and click game on like a 1990 CD-ROM, putting it in and just like having to just figure out the puzzles because they are kind of like abstract because it is a very weird. You're in this strange land. You're in this very. You're basically loop. It's like a time loop game. Who would have thought in 2021 where you're just looping, you're dying over and over, and you have to like break this loop. So it's like you have to figure it out. The puzzles aren't, you know, you know, clear cut. They're not, very obvious. So it's like
Yep.
very abstract, very within the tone. And it's like, okay, I have to figure this out. But yeah, it reminded me of one of those, just like old
Yeah.
school point and click adult themes.
Hmm.
It's one of my favorite experiences this year, just going through that game.
Nice, nice.
Mhm.
Lucy, we'll kind of almost stick with you, but something that featured for number seven for me, a little bit higher than you, was Toem.
Yeah.
What a cute fucking game.
It is really cute. Isometric, black and white, uh, camera. You're taking pictures of things. It's like go find this in the world. Very not abstract. Some of them were abstract, but like very saying giving you clues like what you have to take a picture of in the world. It was just cute and
Yeah,
just fun and
and
just
it's got a very.
relaxing.
It was relaxing. It's got a very specific mechanic to it, which
Mhm.
you pick up straight away. It's like a super simple game.
Mhm.
Yeah, it has a lot of heart to it, and
I really
even
like the ending.
yes, yeah, and it has a lot of kind of, even though it's simple, even though it's kind of saying, go and take this photo, go and do this, there's a lot of kind of subtext in there as well, and you can kind of read that as you want, but it conveys it quite well in sort of being very heartfelt, being very kind of coming of age sort of story, whilst being this super simple game
Yep.
to pass, and it has a lovely kind kind of almost 2.5D kind of aesthetic to it. It's kind of almost, papercraft, Paper Mario kind of tearaway style, even though it's got this black and white sort of tone to it. Like, it just hits really, really well. And it's incredibly short, which is very beneficial.
Is great,
to it.
like 4 hours max.
Yeah.
But it's one of those that I don't always think about when it's like, what's your favorite top 10? It's one that I had to look through my list to find, but it's one of those where it's like, I had such a good, albeit short time with this, and I think the shortness contributed to why I had such a good time to it. But it's just very pleasant. It's like, those were probably the happiest 4 hours I've had this year. If you could distill it into like, what was the time that you were the most happy this year? It was probably playing time.
Nice. Yeah, I wouldn't disagree. But that brings us nicely on to Aadil's number 7, which is probably not the nicest or happiest 4 hours that he has spent. But we've talked about at fucking length is Control.
Yeah. And so I think we talked about it last year because it was on your top list, but I didn't start
top 3.
It was in top 3, yeah. And I mean that's what spurred me to play it.
Short aside, I'm so glad Remedy are doing a survival horror game. They're making Alan Wake 2, and they said it's our first survival horror game. It's like, you were going that way.
It's got Jared Leto in it though. It's like,
really?
Why's Jared Leto in it? Like,
you'll see the back of his head all the time. Skip through the cutscenes, it's fine. Like I did with the first Alan Wake, because the story is pretty crap. But anyway.
So it's a game we found out after the fact was in the Alan Wake-averse. But yeah, it's just fun. It's a fun, tight,
absolutely,
well-designed, good ramp-up game. Well, you don't like well-designed?
The world,
the
design of the world is just,
I found that I liked it because
to get him from place to place, it was shitty.
Yeah, that's true.
That is my.
Yeah, travel isn't great in that game, and I think they didn't figure out how to make it leaner because they wanted to play to the whole aesthetic of the building always changing. I actually was let down by that because
I remember you saying,
yeah, because it was just like,
you're gonna make it confusing. At least change it.
well, the whole point was like, oh, this place is really, really dynamic, and we never know, and also. But it turns out it's just like, oh, you go into this room and it looks this way, and then you beat the level or the boss or whatever, and then it changes to this thing, and then it's always like that.
That's
and then, but
the
they made a big
have
deal
to be
in
the
plot, and then like in the narration and the interaction with the NPCs of like, oh yeah, you never quite know where you go, and it's like, oh, it sounds like my mental map's pretty good, and I'm brand new. Like, are you guys did you get lost everywhere? But I really enjoyed the quality of the enemies, and how you could kind of use your powers in different ways. I really liked talking to you both about your different what you emphasize, because I basically went throw things at people, make that stronger, make me get more of them. I never used the shield once. I unlocked the power and didn't use it, and then never upgraded it. And I just played a very aggro version of the game, and then watching a Let's Play or talking to you guys is like, oh, you can really do this in different ways,
yes.
And you still feel like super badass no matter what power you're using. The plot was interesting. I liked the world a lot. I haven't thought about Alan Wake in a long time, and that made me be like, oh, should I visit? And maybe I will before the new one comes. It's it's just a solid game. It's pretty much the closest thing I have to a AAA game, and it's famously a AA game.
I think it's probably, looking at our list, the only it's the biggest budget game.
Yeah,
probably on the rest of the list. And I really enjoyed going back to it and playing through the Foundation those expansion packs that they brought out, and that gives you a little bit more with it, tying it into Alan Wake. But it's like the Iki Island for Ghost of Tsushima. It's more control. You do get, at least with Control, some excellent kind of exposition in lots of the stuff that you do. Nothing is ever kind of like, oh, just get through this. It always kind of feels like in the storyline that it has a purpose in what you're kind of doing. So I think it's Remedy just have this excellent, and we've had this with Max Payne games and stuff like that. Everything follows on really, really well. The quality of writing in Remedy is really, really good.
I mean, that's basically like I played a lot of that game because I did do almost all of the side quests. I did try and find as much information because I wanted to know more about the world. I wanted to see that writing. I wanted to see that world building, and I enjoyed the gameplay enough that it, like, even when I was like, there was that one boss in the basement that I was just too low power to.
Is that the moss boss or something?
The three-headed one.
The three-headed thing.
Okay, not sure if I did that one.
It's a hidden one. I think it's a hidden one. You don't have to do it.
And the thing is, I was so invested in that game, and I felt like I liked the challenge that whatever I bumped into, I was just like, I will beat this now. And then that was the one time I gave up. And then when I came back later, because I had got the power up that you could throw things at three, you could lift and get 3 things with the lifting power. That boss was insanely easy because the problem was I would throw a thing at one of the heads and the other 2 heads would be attacking me. Well, now I just pick 3 things up, throw them at the 3 heads, and now I can just fucking shoot you with my guns. And it really showed just how different the game is at like just how capable you are. But you don't really notice in the mainline plot just how much more powerful because it's paced really well.
Yeah, good game.
Just a solid game, great world, and like.
Yeah, the world building is
fantastic. And that's what sold me on it, basically. That's why I like played a lot of it.
Perfect. Good. We will launch then into the rest of our games after this. We're going to open some beers. Aadil. You kicked us off. You opened the first beer, so we'll come to you for your next beer this evening.
This one is Polish? Yes, it's another Nepomucen, because I bought 3 of them. From my order online.
I love the name. Sorry, spoilers. I love the name.
Yeah. So
I always say that. I don't know why, but I always say it's a triple double.
Yeah, it's the triple double. It's a triple double. Hazy DIPA.
Triple doubles of basketball.
Yeah, but I don't watch basketball, but I always say triple double. I don't know why. I don't know what context.
Oh, it's in an Ice Cube song as well.
Maybe that's
Footsteps in the Dark. What's the Footsteps in the Dark Ice Cube song?
Yes, yeah.
That one.
Yeah.
It's in that fucking Ice Cube song.
Maybe that's why.
That's why people know what a fucking triple double is. Apart from it being like assists and shots and stuff like that.
You solved my problem, Ben. Thank you for delving into my psyche. I'm a simple person.
Before we get on to beers, if anyone would like to go back to the origins of that song, the Isley Brothers are fucking amazing.
Yes, they are. I love the Isley. Anyway, yes, deal your beer.
So it's a 7.5% Hazy DIPA. Triple double. No, it's not basketball. It's already 3 beers hopped extremely with 3 hops. It's already 3 beers hopped extremely with 3 hops. This is another player in the extremely hopped team of 22-1. Yes, this also has 30 grams of hops per liter. Which player can get this score? I feel like maybe the translation from Polish got a little clunky, but it might have just been my reading. But yes, it's also really great can art. I love the like hops coming into mouths of these weird cartoon people.
They've made the shot. That's it. The hops in.
It was a good day. Ice Cube.
Yes.
One of my favorite songs ever, probably. Yes, but especially from Ice Cube.
Nice.
Yes, and the Isley Brothers song that he, covers that from is even better.
It is absolutely. Footsteps in the Dark is one of the fucking best songs ever. I'm going to go with what I would think is probably one of the best British breweries. I'm going a little bit further north. For a special beer, this is the Northern Monk 8th Anniversary Double IPA. 8.8%.
Triple double, as we call it in the business.
I didn't know that Northern Monk were one of the UK's 100 best small companies to work for in 2021. They're also a living wage employer. They've got some things on the can. And apart from lots of photos of the faces, I would assume, of the people who work for them and have worked for them, potentially, there isn't much more on this. It tells me it's got Citra, Mosaic, Idaho 7, and Strata in it. It does give me IBUs, ECB, EBC's original gravity as well, but it's got oats, wheat. That's pretty much all it gives me. But they put out a special birthday beer for being 8.
Good.
So
Good for them for being a good employer.
yeah, absolutely. So a special episode, special beer. That's what I'm going to crack into. Lucy, what are you having next?
Yeah, I'm having a special beer that I could have aged, but no, because the
Classic tanked up style. Just drink it now.
The best before date is 2024. But it's a Malt Garden beer, and it's called Gate Number 3 2021. It's a Bourbon barrel aged Imperial Stout with maple syrup. That's how I'm paying homage to Canada. Got maple syrup in it. But it's a limited series of beers aged in wooden barrels of fine spirits. But yeah, I think they put out a few more of these recently. I think. Yeah, with their series, I've checked their Instagram. But yeah, there's a few of them. It's a gorgeous bottle. You probably can't really see it, but got like this sort of you like looking into this garden with this kind of like arch into it, with like some sparkly stars in the background. It's really nice looking.
Nice.
I don't know if you can quite
see
just
it,
get that. Yeah, it's 10.5%, so
perfect.
it's a biggie, but 500 ml. But yeah, the Polish, as we've always said, like that side of Europe, they know how to do their stouts. So
absolutely.
I'm looking forward to this one.
Yeah, I think the last time I had Malt Garden was on the end of year show last year. I don't think I've had one since then. So nice to see them popping back up again. Aadil, we'll come back to you for the Nepomucen, isn't it? I think.
It's hazy and hazy.
Yeah, I saw you pour that, and I
looking
didn't want to interrupt Ben. But I was like, damn, that looks like
it's super hazy, like almost whitish yellow. I want to say, like it's just got. There's so much haze that it feels whiter than it is, if that makes sense. Minimal head, lovely, slightly floral, much more citrus sweet nose. Like almost a vanilla hint there, but not quite. Wow. Sorry, I was just like, oh, that's quite thin. And then I was like, wait, Brain, this is 7.5%. Oh no, this is a troublesome beer. Because like, super easy to drink. First sip, already knocked down a finger of beer, just being like, oh yes, because it's so thin. Like it doesn't feel like a boozy beer. The 6% had before was like, oh yes, it feels kind of thick. I like that. It's probably because the 6%. This is like a nah, don't worry about it. Don't look at that percentage. It's fine. It's just like session beer. It's quite, but it does betray its alcohol because it's got a little creaminess to it.
Looks creamy.
So it feels like it's got a thin mouthfeel, but it does have a little bit of that viscosity, which you can't really get rid of, but also it means it clings to the tongue and the mouth in a really pleasing way. Here I'm getting light citrus, but again, I'm now we're leaning sort of halfway between passion fruit and mango, but again, not kind of reserved. I was kind of thinking this might be a little more punchy, but it fades into a slightly piney, really pleasant bitterness. Again, quite light, betrayed with this 7.5%. Oh, this is really good. It's like simple.
Yeah. If it's thin, I'll just go down really easily. That's the thing.
There's another. Sorry.
It looks. I know what you say. It's like thin and creamy, but it looks dense and heavy. But if it's not, then that's just.
Oh yeah, no. It also has a bit of a. It has a nice sort of maltiness that comes in on the finish. Just gives it slightly, so it's sort of like, again, this like midpoint between passion fruit and mango, sort of slightly tropical, but again, not bubbling over with tropical. But then it's like it's paired with this like smooth, almost shortbread type biscuitiness in the sense of like the smoothness, not necessarily the taste, right? Like, so it's got this maltiness, but it's not like, oh yeah, oats in the face. It's just, again, I'm surprised that I've picked these two beers, one from Poland, one from Spain, both DIPAs, but they're both quite reserved DIPAs. Yeah, it's really excellent. The finish is also nice and long, and it's sort of, I'm getting that sort of sweet tropical fruit fading in and out throughout the finish, which is nice. It's like it's sort of trading spots with a little more of that more standard bitterness, which is meaning, except for trying to decipher things and the fact that it's so easy to drink, like I can actually sit with this and still have two different tastes, sort of, like I said, changing places in the finish, which is like great, because that means I might not slam this back, because I will be quite content to have like that sweetness coming in and then the maltiness taking over with the bitterness underneath. I'm quite surprised how sweetness is remaining in the finish.
Who was the brewery again? Sorry.
Nepomucen?
The Spanish one.
No,
the Polish.
No, this is the Polish.
Polish. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. That was the Nepomucen one. Nice. Okay. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. I don't know if I need to say much more.
No. I need, as I say, need to check them out.
Definitely.
I mean, last week my beer was their collaboration with Pony Club.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was that stout, and that stout was excellent. Yeah, surprised.
Nice.
Definitely gonna keep my eye out for them.
Ben is drinking orange juice.
I'm not surprised by this Northern Monk. Northern Monk make fantastic beers, and for those of you who potentially don't drink huge amount of craft beer and are looking to get into, drink some of their patrons' beers, because Northern Monk absolutely knock it out of the park with those. And this feels like one of those beers. Whilst it's kind of like an anniversary beer and a DIPA, it feels like they are not quite living in that middle ground between that juice bomb and the more modern kind of DIPAs, which are a little bit more earthy and things. This is, slightly more kind of dank. It's absolutely thick. I mean, as Lucy said, it just looks like juice. It's maybe a little bit more watery than that in its viscosity, but color wise and the way that it looks, it is just solid. Lovely light nose, a little bit of nice fruit on there, but a hint of that sort of overripe melon in there as well in the nose. But on the flavour, like as soon as I smelt it, I thought, right, this is a modern double IPA. Yep, fine, I know what I'm expecting. But actually, when I drink it, it's more nuanced than that. It's got a nice bit of sort of tropical sweetness to it. You do get those more earthy, really ripe kind of melon notes in there as well, but they lead really quickly into a lovely dankness, and that sweetness cuts above everything else and just lasts and lasts and lasts and lasts and lasts. So whilst the rest of it is kind of flowing through these different types of flavors, going from this slightly kind of earthy, salady sort of initial flavor into a lovely piney kind of dankness, a little bit of weediness to it, because it's got that nice tropical sweetness just cutting above everything else, which lasts. It kind of just elevates it above all of these other beers which have gone, hey, this is this modern kind of double IPA that we're all trying out now. Like, every brewery has decided they're going to do. Excuse me. This one kind of just it doesn't like split the flavour, but it's just kind of got two things sort of going on, and that works really well for it. It feels like, as I say, they're sort of 1 foot in Juice Bomb, 1 foot in modern kind of earthy, really ripe sort of double IPAs, but actually it's more than that. It's not just they're sat in this middle ground. It's actually that they seem to have got both of those elements to work together and not be like, here is this and here is this. It's like, no, this is all going to flow really, really well together. So it's absolutely a modern double IPA with that really ripe kind of mango, but just that added sweetness which can cut through everything else just adds so much to it.
Emblematic of what they've done in the past and where they are now. And would you say that encaptures? That's a word.
Encapsulates.
Yes, encapsulates Northern Monks.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is if you wanted to know what Northern Monk are, this is a brilliant beer to drink. And Northern Monk run the gambit of lighter beers, into double IPAs, into stouts. So this is kind of one of those bigger beers which you could pick up, but absolutely show you exactly what Northern Monk are about. This is very, very good.
Excellent.
That's what we like, Rainier.
Absolutely. Lucy, we'll come to the malt garden.
Yeah, it has no head and it poured like that. Zero head.
Well, it looks like wine almost from here.
Yeah, it's very thin. It isn't the thick, viscous kind of stout that you'd think of, but it's got a very vinous kind of like aroma as well. Aadil, so like red. It's got a very deep red winish kind of smell to it as well. Bit nervous about this. It poured probably a bit more oilier, but now that Aadil says it, it is very, very thin. Poured with zero head, so it's like you can tell it's probably a stronger beer, but yeah, it's got a very, very potent smell. As I say, red wine, but very rich chocolate. So I'm fearing this might be a bit too rich for me, especially because it's like being barrel aged as well. But
right. Drink a barrel aged.
the Poles know what they're doing. It's got that sweetness to it, but it's not cloying. It's not thick. It's not like it's not like got that very insipid like kind of sweetness where it's like I can only sip this once an hour, where it's like I've had my fill. It's thin and it's got like that lightness to it where it's like okay, it's not this. It doesn't have that overwhelming sweetness and the thickness to it, so it's not because that's what some stouts are just like. I think we're talking about on this week's podcast, Aadil, when you're saying some stouts can be very overwhelming in terms of like they're very sweet and they're very thick and it's a bit too much, very rich. This has that richness, but I think the thinness of like the liquid as well, and the fact that it's just so tapered back as well in this strange way that it's not overwhelming at all. You get in. I think that richness from like the chocolate and I think that's paired back slightly by this kind of like almost cherry kind of like sweetness to it. But yeah, as I said, when I poured this, I was very fearful because I was like, oh, this is the kind of stout. I was saying this is the kind of stout I don't like, where it's very boozy, very rich. I prefer something that's got a bit more body to it, a bit. You can have the 10.5%, but you don't have to be so rich. And as I was saying, a Munson do it perfectly. I had a beer from Moeslutl, I think that's how you say their name, which is called the Willy Tonka. That was 13.5%. It didn't taste like that, and it poured a nice like, thick body, nice decent like 2-finger head, and it's like it looked like a very nice stout, and it tasted like that. It's like very comforting, not too boozy, not too rich. So when I poured this, I was fearful, but it does a good job at paring things back. It's not too sweet. It's not too rich. It's not too overwhelming. So yeah, it's a really good beer. I think my problem today is that I've drank a stronger beer
Yeah.
today, which I preferred the mouthfeel, I preferred the body to the woolly Tonka. Also like Tonka beans, so that, in my beers as well, so that helps. But yeah, this could have been like nightmare beer by the way it poured and how thin it is and how strong it could be, but it's not. And
Good.
it's still a very good stout. It doesn't taste like 10.5%. That's probably the best compliment I could give it. It didn't send me running for the hills, but it's still a very good beer. It's still got a lot of depth. It's got those, berry cherry notes. It's got, nice bit of chocolate. It's very good. I'd love to see this age till 2024 and see what it comes out like, because probably immense.
Nice.
Nice.
If
it's got this much depth of flavour now, in 2-3 years, be amazing.
Yeah.
But I don't have that kind of patience.
You need to buy one and just hide it somewhere you'll never find it.
Someone else would have to hide it.
Yeah, that's yeah.
Hide it under
Just
my
knock
bed
on
and
next door, like, could you just hold this for me for a couple of years, please? And irrelevant of when I ask for it, just don't give it to me until this date. Perfect.
Yeah.
Nice. Let's jump.
Good. I wish it had more body though.
Good. Okay. Let's jump back into some games. We will jump back in with our sixes. We'll roll through a few games quite quickly, I think.
Yeah.
But number 6 for me is Kena. A game I've spoken about on a couple of different episodes. Just a really fun game. Like it's one of those that it does have a few limitations to it. It's a third-person kind of action game, and it plays. I don't think it plays like a PS2 game. Lots of people have criticised it in terms of how it does, but it does. The combat is a little bit clunky, but it's got a really.
I think they mean like the design of it more than it plays like, because going back to PS2 games, those are rough. So,
yeah. It's the way that you kind of open up the world and you can unlock extra bits. It works very, very well. It's super simple in what it's doing. Like, it's a absolutely beautiful looking game, and it plays in a satisfying way. So yeah, you do feel that occasionally you're trying to sort of be like, like a PS2 game. Like, you have to press all of the buttons to get through the next sort of section because they all do something slightly different. But that's only a little bit of the game. A lot of it is really satisfying in kind of how it plays, and it has a lovely, lovely story to it, and it looks beautiful. Like it just sits above so many other products in terms of its quality from such a small team. That it kind of just hit with me really, really well, and I think part of that, and absolutely part of that, is because you're a girl going on a journey and very much call back to stuff that you're kind of like your dad had done, and trying to kind of like walk in his footsteps and these sorts of things, and you get that kind of stuff. And I played it with Evelyn, sort of sat there watching me, because it's got some like lovely cutesy little like spore-esque kind of little creatures with it, and she enjoyed sort of watching those kinds of bits. So it hit, at least with me, on a little bit more of an emotional kind of level as well. So it just is, it sort of sits above some of the other games that I've talked about in terms of it being an absolutely nice game, but just in terms of the quality in the finish that comes through with that game.
I'm very interested in if this is their like debut title. Very interested in what this is.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So much promise. Completely. I mean, it's a beautiful game, probably one of the most beautiful games that came out this year. If the only problem is like, probably, better design, if it feels like a PS2 game where it's like, okay, it's very similar, mission structure, and it's like there's not too much diversity. That probably comes with like, your first outing as a debut title, indie staple game. But if Sony puts some more money behind them and they can do, they learn from this, it's like, sky's the limit. They could have like potentially Game of the Year 2025 in that case, very good,
Completely.
blueprint for it. That's great.
Yeah.
And they won an award at the Game Awards. So
Oh, did they? Oh,
I think it was best indie game,
okay.
which yeah, it's for an independent game to put out that kind of, not all about graphics, but to put out that kind of thing, it's like fair play to them. Good stuff.
Absolutely. I don't know where Aadil's gone. Oh, he's back potentially.
He went to the Bridge of Spirits.
He's gone. He is just a spirit. We'll see if he suddenly appears again. But Lucy, we'll come to you for. Oh yeah, hey, he's back.
My internet just like
Well,
died and then came back.
That's
yeah,
fair.
sorry.
Lucy, we'll come to you next for Behind the Frame.
I won't say too much because it's one of those where it's like you think it's not like Inscription where it's like it's this kind of game. It's like purposely trying to be like invert your expectations and be very meta. But I played Before Your Eyes, which we'll talk about later. Spoilers. But I got out of what Aadil got out of Before Your Eyes, I got out of this game, where it was. I think Before Your Eyes, I went into that game knowing what it was going to be, whereas Behind the Frame, I was not expecting it. It's a puzzle game where it's made by like a Chinese studio, but the art is very Japanese anime inspired.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's set in like this French town. It's got very French music, very French sensibilities. Very it's like, okay, parts of the game you're walking down a cobblestone in Nice, and it's like, okay, this is very much drawing from two completely disparate cultures, but it just works so well. And you're basically doing this puzzle game. You're this woman painting in her room, and it's got these very simple rudimentary puzzles. They're interesting enough. It's very cozy. You're basically in this French apartment, and you're basically helping her painting this portrait, and to be shown, try and gain some I wouldn't say it's like she basically wants to have her own studio eventually. So you're basically trying to help her create the perfect picture, and there's different puzzles around that. But where it goes narratively, it's like it's I cried at the end of it. It's like
just
oh,
hits.
yeah, and it's like it sort of does a similar thing to, as I said, I don't want to talk about completely about Before Your Eyes, but it's very much about how art can inspire and get people reminiscent and create memories and stuff like that. And I wasn't expecting it, whereas with Before Your Eyes, I went into it expecting it completely. It's actually called Before Your Eyes, and it's like, oh, it doesn't take a genius to know that it's like I'm literally blinking about my life before my eyes, and it starts off in that way. So, as I said to Aadil before we started recording, Before Your Eyes will stick with me for a long time. And just from a mechanical point of view, I think it's one of those indie games where it's like, yes, why has somebody not done this before? It's it's very affecting. But I think I got that out of Behind the Frame without knowing I'd get it from Behind the Frame. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
More of a surprise. And I don't want to say anymore, but
no, it's fair.
I suggest people play it. It's such an affecting story and ending. You don't think about it that way if you're just going into it as a puzzle game. So
nice.
I actually you've talked about it on the podcast before.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Because I have it on my phone and I've played the first couple.
It's very short. Yeah, it's like 2 hours. I think.
Yeah,
it's like
I think I played maybe 10-15 minutes, and I was like, oh, this is really cute. And I forget that I have games on my phone, to be honest. Like, I didn't go back to it because I forgot it existed. And when you mentioned it, I'm like, wait, hold on. It is that game on my phone. So it's a good reminder. Thanks. Because you between the first time and now this time you're speaking about it, I'm super curious. And to know that it's obviously you're being very cagey on, like, but to know that the narrative is sort of where the meat of the game is, will probably is enough to draw me back.
I might have, ruin that surprise for you lot and the audience, and I do
Hmm.
apologize, but I went in completely blind about it. I just thought it was a puzzle game, and
Yeah.
maybe the revelations won't hit you in the same way, but it hit me. So
Yeah.
you know,
Nice.
That's fair.
it's just got great art and music anyway. So it's just,
Yeah.
Oh, I'm getting so hot in this hat. Sorry. Let's blast through the next couple of games.
You're
We're about
allowed
halfway.
to take it off.
We're about halfway through the episode, and we're about halfway through our games. Let's jump in very quickly with our number fives. There's only two of them because one featured higher. But we'll come to Aadil. Aadil with
I had a
Teacup.
6. Yeah.
He swapped his cheeky little
Ooh, did you
thingy.
swap 'em?
He swapped his. Not allowed.
Yeah.
You're gonna be tried in the
Teacup
Hague
was
for
my
this.
6, so you either skip my 6, but it's
Oh
fine.
no, Teacup. Teacup. Let's go
Yeah,
with Teacup.
Teacup. It's great. It's a fun little. You're a frog, you're a hermit frog putting on a tea party. That's all you need to know. It's like a point and click simple puzzle game. This is one I have on the list because it was just so cute and so wholesome and so like straightforward. Like this is a game like my niece and nephew are never really played games before. They played Mario Kart for the first time. That was their first real video game when I was back home, and like this is a game I want to like give to them. Like
It reminds
that's
me of like the Arthur point and clicks that I used to play as a kid. Yeah.
exactly.
It was going to be on my honorable mentions, but I thought he might have it in his top.
Yeah, and that's why it's like if you're into point and clicks, that's great. If you're into just simple, like you just want to like casually play a game because you don't want to just watch something on YouTube, it's great. If you have kids in your life, I think they'd love it just because it's a very simple story, but it's got enough depth that like the characters are interesting and
Yeah,
like the fact that, and like there's subtext, right? She's shy, Teacup, but and apparently really shy, but she's putting on a party and it's important and she's willing to go out.
She gets
And-
high enough with two strangers though. She's not
Yeah.
that shy. She's like takes some LSD.
Yeah, I was gonna say she's so shy she goes into the woods, finds a tent, and then takes some drugs from the people she finds there. Spoiler alert. But yeah,
Amazing.
so that's all I want to say is it's really wholesome. It's a point and click. It's great for younger. It's a very family friendly and great for younger new gamers.
Nice, good. And Lucy, we stick with number fives for you, which was something that was really high on your list when you played it, Ender Lilies.
Yeah, it's a really good Metroidvania, and yeah, it was my top one for probably the first. I can't even remember when I played it, but at least probably the first 6 months of the years. It didn't come out that early, but until like the later months, yeah, it was really high because it's a very good point and click adventure game. No, very good.
Metroidvania.
Metroidvania.
Yeah, Metroidvania. You see, I'm going through my bingo card, and I got all the two of them. It's either point and click or Metroidvania. So it's a very good Metroidvania. Yeah, it's the arts. I enjoyed the art. It's not too anime.
I was gonna say it's pretty.
It's kind of anime, not too anime.
Uh-huh.
It's got this kind of like deep, moody Hollow Knight look. I think really I'm just crying out for Hollow Knight, and that game doesn't exist. Silksong doesn't exist, and I'm just gonna have to find substitutes for the rest of my life. But I played another Metroidvania later on that year in October, and I was like, yeah, this is the better Metroidvania than Ender Lilies. Because Ender Lilies, the combat's really satisfying. It's hard, apparently. I thought it was challenging but fair. It made me go back to Hollow Knight and think this is a breeze, so it must be kind of hard. Because Ender Lilies kind of felt hard. Maybe it wasn't in tuned in the as I am in Hollow Knight as I am in Ender Lilies. I don't know. But anyway, it's challenging. I think the combat system's really interesting. The kind of buffs that you can get from these different kind of like spirits that you can take on with your character. It's like there's optional bosses around the world, and if you defeat them, you can sort of get their like kind of familiars to fight for you. And yeah, I 100%ed it because it's like the fast travel was really good and convenient. It's like so I can go to anywhere on the map when I want to, really. But it's a really satisfying combat wise, like kind of traversal wise. The traversal's great. The music's great. The atmosphere is great.
Perfect.
It's it's one of the best say point and click again. Metroidvanias that have been made in the last couple of years. Like when you think of the cream of the crop, like Ori and the Will of the Wisp, which is like one of my favorite games of all time. It's like
Mm.
everything distilled that I like in a singular game. And then there's like a second tier of like these are really good. These are really good ersatz versions of like a quintessential Metroidvania game. End of Lilies is one of those, and that's why it was like my top game like for ages this year. It's
Yeah.
fantastic. I mean, it's dropped down in the months since, but I recommend people play that game, not just because it's like, oh, this is just a stand-in for Hollow Knight, as I said, but or Metroid. But no, this is a really good Metroidvania game on its own merits,
Good.
and they've not only taken inspiration from the genre, but they've surpassed that and made something of their own. It's
Nice.
really good. Yeah.
Good. We will jump in then to our number 4 picks for the year. I will start with, because we have 3 of them, I will start with Boyfriend Dungeon, which is just a really good game. It's made so well. It's another game which absolutely kind of wears its narrative on its sleeve almost. And there's lots of different ways that you can play through this. It's one of those games that I don't want to play through again. Like, I'm happy with what I have experienced from it.
Right. Story or...
So yes, with the story, like the characters that I kind of connected with. So it's kind of part kind of like action dungeon crawler, part dating sim, and you date the weapons that you find. And I just, not necessarily connected is a bit of a strong word, but I felt a pull towards certain characters, I suppose, based upon kind of the narrative and things like that. So I it's one of those where I'm like, you could play through this game like 12 times and uncover everything about all the characters and max them out in terms of what they kind of provide to you in combat and things like that. But I'm happy with what I experienced from it. And it has this like time limit on it. So you are a guy hanging out in this town for the summer, meeting various people, doing some stuff, going through these dungeons, using these weapons. And you do come to a final point in this. And I got to that point and I'm like, cool, I'm happy with what I've experienced from it, that I don't want to and I don't need to go back. And I think that's very much helped by it being on Game Pass and not having to shell out X amount for me to then think, oh, I paid a bit of money for it, I should go back to it and play through a little bit more or max out some of these kinds of characters. But it's just written really, really well, and it's got that gratifying loop to it, like something like Moonlighter did a couple of years ago. That loop in terms of do the dungeon crawling, do the kind of the character building, dating sim sort of stuff, go back to the dungeon crawling. That loop is really easy to get into, and it's very, very compelling to pull you through that game. So Boyfriend Dungeon, I think, is just, again, for such a small team, is so well made.
Yeah.
It's my kind of like Paradise Killer of last year. Like, I loved Paradise Killer last year. Fantastic fucking game. This is on that same kind of level for me.
I wish I got into it more. That guy, that very fit Adonis, asked me on a date, and I was too scared to go back to it. I was like, I can't go on a date with you. I'm just gonna uninstall the game. But yeah, I'm glad it hit that.
Yeah.
I think it's like Going Under. I liked Going Under because it had that crawling thing last year, but it was set inside that kind of very cynical tech bro Silicon Valley look. And then like, we all love each other and respect each other, and creepos can get fucked. I like the very cynical tech, Silicon Valley tech bro kind of version of that. So yeah, good for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Next, we'll come to you, Aadil, for Moonglow Bay.
Yeah. I've talked a bunch about it lately, so I'm not gonna say too much. Honestly, I know part of this is that I lived in Halifax, Nova Scotia for a couple of years, and they've captured the small town feel of a town of Eastern Canada really well. I love the aesthetic, both like auditorily and visually. In the end of the day, like one of the things I learned about FF14, my number 10, was like, oh, actually, I really liked leveling the fishing class and like trying to go and go like all over the world and be a fisherman and like try and catch the right things there. But in that game, because it's an MMO, there's so many like, it's like, oh, like you can only find like go here, fish until you get these fish, then you're done with that zone type of mentality. And I found that like easy to fall into, and then like the magic of just being a fisherman game was lost. And with Moonglow Bay, I haven't looked into things, but between the plot being an actual plot, there are boss fights that I didn't know about before. Like there's more depth to the game. I realized the past couple weeks than I gave it credit.
You fight the Megalodon and Jason.
Statham.
I think Statham,
Momoa.
and Momoa.
Because of Aquaman, that's what I was.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Jason
Um,
Statham, Momoa hybrid.
But yeah, I mean, it's the like the cooking mechanics are fun-ish. Like, I'm not really, but like,
I thought those could be like when you told me like you only have to do one or two of them with each recipe. I was like, thank God, because I could have seen.
oh, but
those
see the more advanced recipes. So this is one of the things about depth that I wanted to bring up about this game was the harder recipes are like 7 steps.
Oh boy.
But it turns out that after a certain number of times of doing the recipe, you get 1 star, then 2 star, then like of doing it 3 stars, i.e., not passing all the mini games. You get a star, and then you keep doing it, you get a 2nd star, and you keep doing it, you get a 3rd star. And actually, the mini games get easier and quicker.
Okay.
The more proficient you get, so like the list is like these 7 steps, and then if you like grind out that recipe, it's like shorter.
Surely she's got a Michelin star by now. Can just
Yeah.
hire a sous chef.
No, I mean I have 3 vending machines where I sell both raw fish and
What?
meals.
Oh, I don't think I'd buy raw fish out of it.
Yeah, so one of the things I purposely did was like, if I'm gonna sell fish, because sometimes like you catch a fish and it's like worth 50 quid, it's like it's not worth cooking with it. So I sell all my fish outside of the marine biologist, like the aquarium, which I think is like a weird, like this is either on point or really distasteful.
The latter.
It's like, oh yeah, look at that, oh, a ling. Oh, how cute is that in the tank? And you walk outside like, oh, there's a vending machine with 17 lings, dead.
Yeah. You've basically.
But and so I purposely sell my food out of the vending machine in the middle of town, and my fish when I sell fish at the aquarium. But obviously it doesn't matter. But it's like I realized that I cared enough about it. You're starting to improve I'm at a place in the game where I'm starting to improve the town a lot more, and I find that a little clunky because it's like this town is like beat up. Oh, we want to make it better. Oh, it turns out if the town's better, you'll get more people, so you'll sell your food quicker and the prices might go up. Great, I like that. Like that's how the world works. That's an interesting motivation, but that means that you're just like, oh, the doctor's office is broken. Here's $100. Fix your office. Like no one else is trying to fix this town but me, and I'm literally just like it's the money thing. Yeah, but
Animal Crossing is the worst. You just have these lazy villagers standing around.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's like I get that you want to let me fish and sell fish, or fish and cook and sell the cooking because it's worth more money if I like that part of the game, and there needs to be a money sink, right? Like that's how the economy needs to be designed. But I find it really frustrating when the game is like, oh, for the plot you need to get $500 to reinforce your hull. Oh, but also the town doctor
Well, if you
needs you
didn't
to pay
sell
for his
your
office.
fish out of a vending machine, maybe you'd get there quicker.
Well, I think they don't. So I think the design is a bit of a letdown because I think it's like, maybe like if I was like getting a cut, the first thing you said fix is the bar.
This is socialism. It's
Can
not
I
capitalism.
can I just become a partner in the bar and get a passive income if I'm gonna throw
No.
money at fixing the bar? Like just
You
something to make it a little more real world because I like that you're like that's where I get the mechanics. I'm fine with
Isn't
shortcutting, but
Canada like that in general?
Yeah.
You like
no, random old people whose partner died 3 years ago don't just go throwing money at random buildings in the town and then walk
I
away.
thought Canada was a happy place.
Yes.
And now you're
But like,
lying
I
to
really
me?
like the setting. I like that you're an old. I like that you can be
Yeah.
like I'm an MX because I chose to have they them pronouns. I like that my partner could be whatever. I really like the aesthetic. I like the gameplay. It's just like I said, there's like some UI stuff and some like glitches that happened in earlier builds or whatever. But really, my biggest complaint is that they did such a good job at wrapping the rest of the game that they like just throw money at the town feels really clunky because everything else feels really fluid.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I think it's a testament to the fact that it's well designed that I'm not that I have the dissonance
she
of like
wants to, like, I remember in the start of the game, she wants to boost the economy, not just be the sole fisherwoman or man, or,
yeah.
Bring more
And
people.
there are other
Bring more
fisher
people
people
here.
now at my point in the
Yeah.
game.
It seems like, okay, I've started selling fish, bringing people to the place. Y'all should do something, you know? Y'all should start selling your cupcakes or something.
Yeah,
Let's
like
build the economy in the
she
country.
shouldn't be the master chef, like the
Yeah.
only person doing the job, right? Like
Yeah.
that's the problem.
That's what, because narratively from the start of the game, it seems like that's the whole point.
So
But yeah,
it kind of brings me very nicely onto the next game, which both Lucy and you and I had on our lists, which is Unpacking, which for me has absolutely no problems. It is almost
Perfect game.
a perfect game.
Moving on, what's your number?
I mean,
that's
I also think
number
it's
fours.
great.
Number fours. Yeah, and Aadil, as you had a little bit of time with it as well as an honourable mention. Unpacking is fantastic in terms of it being very simple in its gameplay, but conveying so much. Like
that's why I think it's brilliant.
Yeah, it is brilliant. This is a fantastic fucking game.
Yeah, because it's one of those where it's like, yes, you get to know the person without seeing her face. You know, it's a woman without seeing her face. You can build that kind of like story and her, journey and her life in your own head just by the things that she owns, and it's like it makes you wistful and self-reflective in a way that a lot of indie games do, but few do with so many, with so many like things that they actually overtly say, and so many few.
One of you just quickly, if the listener isn't familiar, just like explain what.
Yes, you are unpacking boxes. It's kind of a point and click game. You click on a box, and an item will pop out, and you have to put it somewhere in the environment. And it might be a cuddly toy, which you can put on the bed or wherever you like. It might be a book, but you roll through rooms, within this woman's life, and every stage is a different time in her life. But you roll through rooms, and things kind of have their place. You don't always have to perfectly put things in places, but things have to kind of have somewhere to be. So,
and then in the right room, and sometimes some things aren't in the right room, which I really appreciate because it's just like when you're packing them. This is like just a great example of the detail of the game. Like when you're packing, if you think about it, it's like like we can fit another thing in this box. Get that thing from the kitchen because even though this is a living room box, it'll fit.
Or the late thing, like I haven't brushed my teeth yet. Oh shit, we've packed everything. Quick, brush my teeth and put it in whatever box I have available. Yeah. And that's where the toothbrush kind of is. It sort of has this lovely real life quality to it.
Yeah, and it makes me wonder. This is one of the games that I was just thinking about, like different generations of people playing games. I saw a Twitter thread where it was like people were mistaking the GameCube, what is their non copyright kind of GameCube in the game is, people were mistaking that for like a toaster or something.
Oh
And I was just
wow.
like, someone was like on a Twitter thread, do you think you feel old? Well, look, some people are like, where does this GameCube go? It doesn't go in the kitchen. Like, damn. But I'm just thinking that is very much okay, you were born somewhere between 1995 and, you know, not
79.
1995, but like, you started moving to different properties somewhere between 1995 and onwards. So it's like,
Yeah.
you know, does someone who's like born in 2000 connect with that? I think yes, because it's like it's just that sense of like growing up, moving to a new space, becoming
Yeah.
your own person, got your own things and stuff like that. I think it does track, but I think it probably wouldn't rank as high if you weren't born in, you know, somewhere between like, you know, 1980 to
Yeah, I mean,
maybe.
to be honest, like, so what I like about the game is the fact that like it's kind of pixelated, but you get the feeling for what these items are, and that's where
Yeah,
things kind of
sound
fall apart.
design.
There's
Yeah.
only one moment in the game, like I've played 5 moves or something like that.
Just finish them. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I've really liked it. Especially like the like unsaid reasons for moving, but
Yes.
right, are really great. But like what, and the only time I got kind of flummoxed was when there was a thing that looked kind of like a CD player, and I put it on a shelf and it didn't work, but I couldn't figure out how to put it under the TV with the Wii or something, and it just kept like I couldn't figure out, and it was the only time I was like, I don't know if this is a CD player, and then I just like tried the same thing, and like I ended up putting the Wii behind it, and both the things on the TV, but the Wii was like functionally inaccessible, but the game was like, you've done it, you finished the level. I'm like, it's the only moment where I was just like, because one of the reasons why I didn't finish the game was I was like, I felt the pressure of, I'm really liking this, I kind of want to go far so I can talk to you lot tonight about it, and then I was like, no, I'm gonna not commit, I'm gonna commit to taking my time, because like if you look in my sock drawer, I make them into balls, and I've got my stripy ones and my non-regular pattern ones and whatever.
Hey,
So like,
man,
yeah, but like
I
I got to do that with every time I move this person. I made this person neurotic because every time they move, their drawers are labeled, and I got an achievement for fixing the boyfriend's shitty sock drawer.
Oh,
wow.
nice.
Because
Nice.
it was it was one of those things where it's like I wanted more space, and he had like socks in 2 drawers, so I just like did his stuff as well, and they're like, ta-da! And I was like, oh, that's really fucking
Perfect.
clever.
That's really good, isn't it?
But again, I like that it kind of allows you that level of control, and you know, there's some pretty kind of very pixelated, but very true to form kind of GameCube game
Blu-ray
covers or Blu-ray covers and stuff. But it's not a game which is like asking you to be that in detail. Be like, put all of these in alphabetical order as well. It's just like, and you don't even have to put all of the GameCube games or the Wii games or the
Together.
DVD games together. You can kind of just put whatever you want
I am
on those
like
shelves.
that in real life. I have that, you know, neurotic behavior. I mean, I've got there's like 1,000 DVDs behind there, all in alphabetical order. So I get that. But in a video game, I've got no time for those.
Well, that's I think the brilliance of the game is that like there are things that want on shelves in a room, and that's what it'll say. Nah, you're not done yet. But like, if you want to take your time, you can make the apartment like. So like when there was things that were clearly Blu-rays and they were spread across boxes, and I was just in a role of like, oh, it's a thing that looks like a book, put it on a shelf, and I was just packing the shelves, and I was like, oh wait, no, these are all clearly Blu-rays. Hold on, let me move these over to this shelf, and then I started organizing, and then I was like, you got me, game. I'm no longer gaming. I'm pretending like I'm living here.
Yes, yeah.
The thing is, I'll forgive those little nitpicky things for the points where it's like, with like one of those photos where it's like, and her diploma, where it's like, no, you can't put that here, and it fills into the narrative. So I'll forgive those times where it's like, it's not part of the narrative. You have to. It's very nitpicky. I'll forgive that for the point where it actually does it for
Yeah.
the narrative. So,
Mm.
yeah.
Nice.
It's a perfect.
I also Ben
Has no-
tried to put the diploma above the loo.
Yeah.
We all did. We all did.
I
Seems
was
like
like,
the
I'm
perfect
sure
place.
Ben said this wouldn't work, but fuck it, I'm putting this here.
That's where it belongs. That's where all of our players belong. But the sound design in that game, like, there was also a Twitter friend. It's like how, like, different
Like
objects,
how many? Yeah.
how many different sounds it is. Like a can of spray sounds different. You put it on top of the toilet, when you put it on top of a bed, on top of like spongy carpet. It's just, yeah, so good.
Nice,
Sounds
nice.
so good.
So we have hit into our third hour. I don't know about the two of you. I saw Lucy sort of supping at her second beer still.
I got a lot left, but I'm fine to move on.
I mean,
Yeah, good.
Get my
So
own beer.
let's launch then into our third beers very swiftly before we get into our top 3 games for this year. Aadil, first, please. What is the third beer that you are opening?
it is a nostalgia 5%, 22 IBU nostalgia's coffee porter. A smooth dark porter aged on hand-selected specialty coffee beans, 6 different malts: Munich Pale Ale, Oat Flakes, Chocolate, Cara 120, Special B. The 3 classic hops are Chinook, Mount Hood, and Cascade, and it is nostalgia. Where are they from? They are in Belgium.
Nice. So staying
That's all I would-
European for the episode.
Yeah. I mean, again, these were just like interesting beers I got that
Yeah.
like. Yeah, and so it's a 5%. It's a 30 ml can. So it's actually ironically the porter is like the weakest of. It's like the throttling down of the evening, but yeah.
Nice. I'm going to come back to Bristol for this beer and drink one of the new Bristol breweries stouts that they put out over the last couple of, I suppose, weeks. They seem to have put out about 7 or 8 different stouts over the last couple of weeks.
Almost mad.
This is the Espresso Martini Cinder Toffee Stout. It is a 7% coffee and honeycomb stout.
Their honeycomb stouts are great.
Yeah, absolutely they are. There's not a huge amount of text on it. It's a beer. That's what it tells me. There's lactose in it. That's what I can see from a quick scan on the side of the can. Yeah, I mean, it's gonna. Let's see what it gives me. Coffee and honeycomb stout. Lucy,
Nice.
Oh, yeah.
we'll come to you then for the third beer.
Got a big bowl.
Oh, it's a big bowl.
It's a big bowl, and it's too we haven't had in ages.
Nice.
And it's Natur, Natur. So, presumably, it's going to be a spontaneous fermentation, I imagine. It's called Through the Eyes of Mortals. It's a barrel-aged wild ale. Yeah.
Nice.
Bit of flavor text. It says a collaborative recipe made with the amazing crew from Casey Brewing and Blending in Colorado, USA. Fermented with a combination of their yeast and bacteria strains and ours. Fermented in stainless steel and dry hopped with cashmere before resting in Chardonnay barrels for 15 months.
Wow.
Again, best before 2024. 6.5% this is. Yeah, and it's a big 750 ml champagne. Well, not champagne bottle. It hasn't got the,
but a good size to finish the
Talking
evening
cage, but,
out.
Yeah.
Aadil, we'll come back to you for nostalgia.
Nostalgia, yeah. Nostalgia's coffee porter. Quite a thick, creamy head. It poured 2.5 fingers, and we still have 2 fingers kind of left. If you can see if you're on the video that it's like slowly fading, but like that head is just wants to be there. It's got a lovely To be honest, it's got a lovely sweet aroma that like makes me think like it would make you think it's a richer porter than it is. Um, nice. So like slightly sweet, light malts. Um, think some oat and some coffee on the nose. Just light coffee. I'm actually quite happy with how carbonated it is. I think it made everything hit my mouth a bit bigger, especially given that it's a 5% porter.
Yeah.
I think that like it's a good trade-off of making it a little more carbonated than you would normally think a porter would be, just because it's giving me those hits. And it's also, I think the oats that I think it was oat flakes was one of the many malts. You can feel that with the creaminess that comes from putting oats in a beer. So it just feels a little thicker, a little more viscous, which is what you want out of, a porter. It's still quite thin, so like you could easily take bigger, boisterous sips, even though the carbonation's helping to hold back from chugging it or anything. The finish is starting to kick in. It's slightly metallic, but mostly I'm getting, like I said, it's very malt forward, not surprisingly, but I'm getting oat, I'm getting slightly burnt. I was thinking that this might have more coffee-ish notes, but actually it's more like lightly roasted over there. Like you're just getting kind of like if you were at a campsite and someone 2 spots over had a raging fire, like you're getting just this hint of acrid burnt, but it's just it's not right in front of you.
Not in your face, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Really pleasant. There's a sweetness that underlies everything. My brain said ruby, and I don't know what that means. Ruby sweetness. I think it's actually
we know.
Because it's a slight. It's a red. It's like a red fruit sweetness. Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah. So there's this like slight red sort of berry fruitiness,
berry, yeah.
and I think
That's
that
what I
berryness
think
is coming from the more coffee, chocolatey parts of the malts.
That's how I felt with this malt garden, for sure. That kind of deep, rich chocolatiness that sort of leaks over into red berry, yeah. So
yeah, it's really really tasty.
Nice.
I am really curious to how it will end because I just came off of a 7.5% DIPA. I want to let my palate acclimatize to this one before.
For sure.
Nice, good. We'll come on to this the stout that I've got then, and it's the smell. I haven't tasted it yet, but the smell is fucking divine. It kind of hits if you've ever opened up a toffee yogurt. So that little bit of lactose, that little bit of sort of vanilla hint, but a little bit of toffee to it. It's got that as kind of like initial thing. But when you really put your nose in, you really take those flavors in. You're getting that honey. That's what that kind of like that sweetness is. You're getting that coffee as well, which adds to that little bit of sort of sweetness, but gives you those lovely kind of deep roasted notes as well. And it's the nose is so good. But again, it's as you would kind of expect from a stout, a little bit of a brown head to it, not a huge amount.
I love that glass. Is that from Beer 56?
Yeah, it's their last year's Christmas advent calendar glass. Yeah,
that's nice.
That's really nice.
Little marshmallow boys running.
Gingerbread man.
Marshmallow.
Cool. That's a big flavour. Jeez, that's a lot bigger than I was expecting.
Yeah.
So, it's very similar to the nose, but bigger and pillowy. So it feels very soft.
I like pillowy beers.
Like a pillowy beer, but there's a lot.
Pillow.
There's a lot going on. Like it's really soft, but it's very, very big, and you're getting a lot of those initial kind of roasted coffee notes. So that it says espresso martini. Yes, you get that big kind of like coffee hit straight off. But then those slightly sweeter notes come in afterwards. So you're getting a little bit more of the honeycomb that comes in. Yes, it's one of their like cinder toffee stouts. You're getting that kind of like burnt sweetness from it as well. So they come in just that little bit afterwards, but the big presiding flavour is coffee, and it's really really nice. Like this is it's lovely in its flavour, but I can already tell in only having a couple of sips that this is a sipping beer. It's one of those that I don't want to take huge swigs of. And I want to sit here and kind of be like, yes, this is a lovely flavour. I don't need a huge amount more of this before I let it fade as much as it's going to. Because
that's how I feel about this this stout, the malt garden, because it's like probably drinking it quicker now for the sake of I'm back to drinking another beer next, but you could literally have this sit, especially when it warms up and the temperature just gets better, and the beer comes into its own. 2 hours if you're brave.
And I think I probably hit this at about the right temperature. It's probably about sort of 8 degrees, something like that. So it's a little cool. It's maybe a little bit hot, maybe level sort of 8, between 8 and 10, something like that. But it just allows that coffee to kind of linger, and those nice sort of slightly sweeter notes to sort of fold in really easily. And they're the things that sort of sit and linger nicely.
Yeah, nice.
So, and finally for our beers this evening, Lucy, the 2-0. I know you've been supping the malt garden, but we'll push you to the 2-0.
Yeah, it's fine. I've had a little bit of water to clean my palate, but just wanted to add, because there's a little bit of other flavour text on it. It says Tall Nature is contemporary mixed culture saison and wild ales. Open fermented and aged in oak, re-fermented in the bottle using raw honey and local hives. So
nice.
There's 2 sets of flavour text on it, so that confused me. But smells like a saison.
Oh.
It smells like a saison, but so it's got a bit of tartness to the aroma. Oh, let me put this big ass bottle over here. That's better. But yeah, lovely colour. It's got orangey.
Yeah, lovely orange.
Yeah. Probably looks like that. Yeah, just probably a bit thicker, more opaque in the camera, but than it is in real life. But yeah, it's got that orangey smell as well, like orange. Probably the pith and the peel to it. Maybe a bit of zest, but yeah, definitely orangey in the aroma, but very fresh, very slight bit of tartness in the aroma. Ooh, it's definitely it's one that doesn't show itself in the initial taste, but let me go for another sip. Yeah, it doesn't carry over that like kind of tartness to the taste, but it's got a lot of fruit in it. It's got a lot of orange. Got a lot of orange in the flavour, more than I was expecting. Nice bit of sourness, but not too much. I'd say it's probably more tarty in the aroma than it is in the flavour, and even that was quite subdued. So it's an interesting one, because when I think saison, I don't automatically go to orange as a flavour. Orange as a it's very much not that kind of juice that you get in like a double IPA or something, or just an IPA, that kind of like juicy orange. It's more like piffy, zesty, peel rather than just the juice. But I'm gonna have to sit on this one and
Okay.
ruminate on this
Yeah.
because it's very orangey at the moment. I don't know if that's because my palate is a bit off balance from the very opposite kind of beer, the stout. But I'm gonna sit on this one. It's
Okay.
nice. Don't get me wrong, but just not what I'm expecting from a saison at
Yeah.
the moment. Just very orangey.
That's all right.
But,
That's all right. We can bash through our top threes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
come
let's
back
come back to
to
this.
come back
Yeah.
to the beer at the end of the episode, as we were with all of the beers that we have drank during this episode. But we're going to go into our top threes of 2021. We've not quite got 9 games. There's 8, so there's a little bit of crossover.
But not as much as we would have thought.
But maybe not so much. But I will launch in very quickly to talk about Sable. I love
Yeah,
Sable.
because you were holding it. Yeah.
Yep.
So I'm very curious what you have to say.
I mean, again, we haven't got too much time to linger on too many games, but Sable is a fantastic game. It's written so well. Like, it's kind of this coming of age, open world exploration sort of game where it allows you to sort of take things at your own pace. It presents stuff in kind of like, here is a quest to do, here's a quest to do, here's a quest to do from this, area that you're in. And you can kind of go and do what you want. And you don't need to do all of it. You don't need to do any of it, realistically. As Sable, you're travelling around the world on Simoon, who is like a hover bike. And you have to work out your place in the world. And you do so by doing kind of quests for different people. So if you do quests for merchants, they will give you a merchant's token, and 3 tokens will give you that mask. So at the end of the game, you could just do 3 merchants quests, get the merchant's mask, and go to the end of the game and be like, I want to be a merchant, please. And the game goes, cool, I'm glad you've had this experience. You're like, Sable is now going to go on to be a merchant. Cool. And like, it's very open-ended in that sort of sense. Like, you can do as much or as little as you sort of want with this. But the world is lovely, and it's very compelling in terms of its kind of openness in how you can kind of approach things. And
may I ask a question?
Mm.
The last thing I want to do is yuck somebody's yum, especially on Game of the Year thing. But because I haven't heard you talk about it until now, I'm just asking, like, some people have said it's like quite wide but quite shallow. Do you find? I mean, obviously, it's in your top 4. Like,
so, like, yeah, completely. But a little, yes, a little. But
Okay.
I think that it's not one of those games where you're like, I need a merchant's badge, or I need a soldier's badge. I'm doing the same thing that I did for that soldier's badge. Like, it has these very encapsulated little stories that it tells with each of these quests that you kind of do, and nothing. Some of it's a little bit kind of rote in like fetch quests or this kind of, go here and do this kinds of thing, and then come back to me and I will give you the badge. But everything tells quite a unique little story that I was interested enough in the world that I'm like, it doesn't matter that it's asked me to go and get 3 beetle shits. The person who wants these absolutely loves eating beetle shits, and that's a fucking weird thing in itself. So I just want to get them to see what that person says, and you get back and they're like, thanks for getting these beetle shits, I love eating them. And you're like, cool, okay, all right. And it's something in that sort of sense that it's sort of, yes, there can be a little bit of a fetch questy sort of nature to it, enough of those missions deviate from that, that I felt the way that I approached everything, and it wasn't sort of like, I need to do this now, I need to do this now. It was just like, I'll just go and do that because it's close. That everything was different enough that I never felt that any of it was rote, that I was repeating myself too much. Lots of it adds to the exposition of the world, and it's very interesting as well in terms of kind of how this world has evolved and what's kind of going on. It's incredibly buggy, like horribly in some sort of senses, like the way that the hoverbike moves across the world, but it can be forgiven a lot of the time because it's not like game breaking. It's just like, whoop, a bit wobbly occasionally.
I wanted to. I installed it, but it was the frame rate was really bad when it came out
Mhm.
on Xbox, but they patched it since, and
Yep.
I have got a better Xbox now, which
Yes.
shouldn't be the excuse, but it's like, yeah, I hope to get to it. So maybe when I play it, it's one that we can talk more about.
Yeah,
'Cause
absolutely.
I'm very intrigued. Yeah,
Yeah,
Me
absolutely.
too.
it looks beautiful. Yeah,
And it is
like,
beautiful.
yeah.
The art style is something I've never seen before
Mhm.
as well.
Yeah.
The art style wise, and when the demo came out earlier in the year, I played it a couple of times. I like this is it's just the demo feels really good, and in the game that comes across as well. Like the movement just feels fantastic. And movement is a big part of the game. So for them to have nailed that really goes a long way to it. We'll move on to Aadil's game, which potentially in Manifold Garden probably holds a lot in terms of its movement.
Yeah. What a great fucking game. It's it's maybe 4 or 5 hours. I don't know. Might be closer to 6. I played it on stream, and then there's two things. One, it's like a first-person puzzler where you affect gravity, and the whole point is like the world wraps around itself, and it's very like all the puzzles have like often have to do with like thinking like the first mechanic you learn is basically changing which plane, like think of a room. What if you could right click and make the ground a different one of the 6 planes that are in a cube, right? Basically. And there's a few other things, but mostly it's that mechanic, and then the fact that the world repeats itself. So, like, if you jump off of a thing, you will land on the top of it because the world wraps around itself ad infinitum. Things like that. It's just, but it was just so well done. It's it conveys like there's no narrative per se, but you have this notion of progression because of the level design is really good. There is every like at the end of like levels, quote unquote, you get this like really crazy fractal design and like some. I don't remember what the spiel was. It wasn't like that's not why you play this game, but it's really beautiful. It's got this like kind of um ink lines making everything pop a bit. Like it's the aesthetic
It looks very pagoda kind of like shrine kind of.
yeah, but it's like but like yeah, but the art style has sort of thicker lines on the borders.
Yeah.
Just gives it a little more of an aesthetic rather than just it's not like someone was like, oh, what if we just did what the guys who made Matrix 2 and 3 did, which was like everything CGI, and it's just trying to be like it's very like purposeful and beautiful, and like there's different colors that mean different things. It's just really great, and honestly, one of the reasons why it's this high is the fact that
you played it with your mate. You played it with your friend.
Yeah, I played it with my friend. My friend Jem, like I ended up playing it on Discord. I was just like, I want to show you this game, and then he was like, cool, and I got and I restarted it, and I got to the point where the stream ended, where I think Ben was with me on stream on that one. And so it kind of like screaming through, but then I got to the point where we were doing new stuff, and we spent like probably 5 hours straight. Like we just mainlined the entire game, and when my brain was failing, he'd be like, what about this? And I would just could be the automaton, and then afterwards he was like, man, I'm so fried, and I'm just trying to keep up with you because you just seemed to like, he thought that I was just like, I'm going, yeah, and so he was like, oh, I gotta go, but he was just like there was a couple of spots where it's like if I was by myself I would have paused, but because I was playing with a friend, and
I love that.
But it's what's great is like yes, there's some mechanically difficult moments, but the game isn't about like being great at those things. Like yes, you might have to try several times or a lot to do this really crazy thing. The physics is reasonably forgiving, but it's very tight, if that makes sense.
It's a game that I followed the development of for ages, and when I came to play it, it's like it's a bit much for my motion sickness, but it's just like I'm so glad you found love in it, and when I saw only this, I was like, yeah, he played it with his mate, and I was like, that's how I was with like the first Portal. Like I played that at a friend's house. and we were like, just blown away by that game. Just like the infinite kind of like possibilities in that sense. It's just like, it reminded me of that. So
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you had that kind of experience with a game that I wanted to do so well and has found it.
We'll move quickly on to a game that both you had on your list, a game I haven't played called The Forgotten City, which I think every other game that we have, every other game on this list we've talked about on the podcast. I think this is the only game we haven't talked in depth about.
I played it this week.
Aadil, you sneaky son of a gun.
Well, so
how did
Lucy
you find
was like,
it?
I want you to play this game, and then after we recorded this week, I was going through games, and I had already pre-downloaded it on Game Pass because it's on Game Pass, and I was like, oh, Lucy really wanted me to play that game. I bet, and like she said really good things, and I've heard good things.
I was
from
like,
people.
You're either gonna hate it or love it. That's what I said.
And then I was like, fuck it, I'll just start it, and then I have done all 4 endings. I haven't done all the Chivos, but I've beat that game. It's great.
Philosophy Major loves it. I'm not wrong to like it. Yay! Okay, moving on. Number 2.
So for those of you who don't know, you basically play as a person who wakes up, and this lady named Karen's like, can you help me out? Like, I'll help you out, but can you help me out? Because my friend's gone into those ruins, and I promised him I'd stay here. Can you go fetch him? Because I've been waiting for a long time. And you go in, and then you fall into a portal and wake up, essentially in ancient Rome? Question mark?
It's ancient Rome.
Yeah, I'm just saying. Yeah.
Friend's gone. We can talk about it all.
And you wake up in ancient Rome, and then you realize that you are in a time loop in a weird city, where
nobody can escape, and
there's no escape, and everyone is bound by the golden rule, which is essentially
if you
don't do bad things, otherwise everyone will die.
Yeah, because you walk around this town and there's golden statues, and that's basically the siren, the calling point is like, if you sin, you'll become one of these statues. And you're like,
well,
why
these statues will wake up and fucking shoot you.
Yeah. Yes, when you first sin, it's like, yes, they will do that, but it's like, they're there even before you sin, or somebody else sins in the game, it's like, those are the, sirens. It's like, don't do bad things. And I just love how it inverts expectations on, like, what it sort of like comes out of the game when you're talking like meta, when you're talking about inscription that we're talking about later on, but it's like that brings it on you, the player, where you're thinking, what can I do where I don't sin? Because it's like, this is based on a Skyrim mod.
Yeah,
and
so
it's
this
like,
is the crazy thing.
Yeah, if you're thinking like, I'm in Skyrim, usually you're like, up and downing, teabagging somebody else whilst this scene plays. And you like slashing your sword against this person, this NPC, as they talk, and you're just like, hold on, if I do that, I might break the golden rule. Yeah. And it's just like, it kind of plays into mechanics and what you
morality.
Think of what is a game, not even your own morality.
No, but the game.
Because I'm just like, the game's kind of like, what is a game? What is a video game? What counts as sinning in my morality, but also in the game's morality system and coda.
Because you are playing as a character who's new to this and is figuring it out, it clearly, like, it's so well written. It clearly like makes you think, what does it mean to sin in general in the world, but also what does it mean for me to be annoyed that the game's rule, like the game mechanics, are gonna fuck me on this? Right? And the thing is, the game's mechanics fucking me on this is the same headspace as all the characters of, like, we don't know what sins are or whatever. It's just it marries the narrative moment of what would it be like to be here and the gameplay one as a gamer. Like, it's so intelligently done.
That
I
coder
really
in terms of,
like it.
Nice. That coder in terms of, like, I'm a human, what is morality to me, and what is morality in a video game? It could be anything.
And but also, like, there's like a really big thing of, like, this works especially well if you've ever played games which try and introduce ethics or morality, because it's always so stupid and hackneyed and hackable, and
Yeah.
this isn't nearly that.
Nice.
Also, it's 2021. It's a time loop game.
Yes.
But like once I realized it was a time loop game, and I started. So when I first was like going, because I didn't really, it's like, well, what's going on? You fuck up time loop, whatever, or like something happens that someone sins. Because what's great is it's basically there's like 23 people in the game, and
It's just a small condensed
in a
space, but
day,
it's just
and you're trying to solve all the problems of the day for your own benefit, but also everyone else's. But certain things, certain events, if you don't interfere with, someone will sin, and so you'll just be like wandering around talking to someone, and suddenly everything goes gray, and it's like the sin of the one. Yeah. But again, look, it's clearly based on a Skyrim mod. They have it on Unreal, or I think Unreal is what they used it on the remake.
They use it into
But like like voice acting is good. The voice acting is good. The facial
I think
animation
the voice
is
acting
not.
is really good.
Yeah.
I think I watched the no clip documentary.
Mm.
I mean, I love anything made in a Skyrim because I like that game, and it's like something like what was that painting game that came out few years ago or whatever it is, that kind of looked like it was a Skyrim mod. I love hokey things like that look like that it was made out of the Skyrim mod because I love Skyrim for some odd unknown reason. But if you watch that documentary, there's a no clip documentary. I think I'll early access to it because I'm a Patreon member, but it's coming out soon. It's a really good indie story anyway.
Oh, yeah.
But they talk about the facial animation and how it's a miracle how they got to something even that looks not great.
Well, the thing is,
great.
The game is about the writing. It's about the mystique of the world, and like I don't want to spoil what's going on, but like there's a depth to the writing's so good. There's a depth to we're looking at a snapshot of history of like a fire in Rome, like a specific moment of Romans where most people are like, except for you, everyone's from that moment. And there's like historical details, and like socio-political stuff, because not everyone's Roman. There's like a Greek and an Egyptian and other stuff, and it's just very smartly done, and it's very interesting, and like you learn more and more, and you're like, you could just go down this path of like, oh wait, so none of this matters for the loops. It's just interesting, but also I want to know. I don't want to spoil anything, but I'll just say, like, if you like deep narrative for its own sake, this is great. If you like time loop mechanics and like trying to figure out the puzzle of like, because literally you're reliving it. It's Groundhog Day, essentially. You relive the same day. I'm going to spoil one of the endings because I think it explains how the game works. There's 4 endings, and when you pass one, it tells you which one you've done, and that like the 4th one's the one you want. And the when you start to talk to the guy who helps make sure the loop happens, he says, "Look, no matter what happens, we'll always repeat the day unless the only way you're out of this is if you figure out how to solve the problem of the time paradox, because so long as I can get to the temple." If things go wrong, I'll just do this. I'll say my thing, and then I'll open the portal, and you can loop back.
It will happen again. Yeah.
Yeah. So my asshole gamer mind was like, but if the sin is me killing your ass, what happens? And so like on day 3, I get to the point where I can kill this guy, and then I get to an ending, and I don't know anything else is going on because I'm just like, fuck it, what up? Because everything else in this game is like, well, it doesn't matter. Like, you can be rude to people because there's a loop. But actually, there's no reason to be rude to people because the only way to get information out of them...
This is where I was worried. You know, I'm the person who's like, don't commit a sin. So I'm just like, very cautious around anything. Aadil goes and murders the first person he can, solve the paradox, because he's a philosopher.
Hey, I finished the game.
Let's move on. Let's move on from Forgotten City because we've got 5 games to talk about. But I will launch.
Typical.
I'll jump into my second favorite game for this year because it follows on from this really well, in terms of it being big on the narrative and big on the kind of like the politics, and it's Road 96.
Oh, yeah.
It's a very narrative heavy game, and it is written excellently. Like irrelevant of everything else in that game, the writing is fucking brilliant, and it has lots of other excellent qualities to it. Like the voice acting is really good, the soundtrack is fantastic.
French team, right? Yeah.
Yes. Well, I'd
so.
have to Google the dev. But...
Google enhance. I'll do it. Carry on talking.
But it's one of those games where the story, again, it's not a time loop necessarily, but you are looping through with these different characters, right? You are kind of doing a 2-week stint with one character, moving through the world, and then they will get to the end, and then you will jump back to another character a few days on, who will then try and get through this world, and you're meeting all of these different characters, and progressing their story as well through time. But you're constantly having these effects potentially on the final kind of outcome, and whether that's to do with the decisions you make as you play the game, whether that's to do with the characters that you encounter and the progression that you have through their sort of story as you play the game. I'm not sure, but I don't really need to be sure, because again, like other games that I played this year, the playthrough that I've had of this is all I kind of need of it. Like, I've played through that in the game to its end.
Yeah.
And what's happened with it, I'm happy with the narrative that I have been presented with.
Well, that's just emblematic of a good narrative.
Yes.
Thread. It's like, and as you say, like, story, because that's a lot of, like, telltale, like, kind of things. It's like,
it's really similar. Yeah,
I'm happy with the things that I've done, and it came to a satisfying conclusion.
Mm-hmm.
The developer is they're saying it's a labour of love from Johan Fanis, who made Valiant Hearts, and after he left Ubisoft, made 1111 Memories Untold. So
nice.
That makes sense,
Yeah.
I mean, Valiant Hearts had it, even though it was based on World War I, it's still a very affecting narrative. So
Valiant Hearts is
see that
fantastic.
through the line.
Yeah. So yes, Road 96, an absolutely sort of brilliant narrative game.
I'm glad that had an effect on you. I think people who have played that game, and I do need to play that game, have said it's very affecting. It could have been very hokey, like we're crossing the border, this and that, but it seems that it has so many different paths, and the fact that you just took this one path, because that's what the game's known for, like there's so many diverging, activities and paths. If you just took that one, and it affected you so well, then you just think how many other different narratives and how many other different people have had that kind of, affecting narrative.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't even, it was completely disparate to what you had, and I think that's testament to the game. So
completely.
Yeah, I want to play that.
Potentially something that doesn't have that kind of level to it, but is still featured incredibly highly on your list, Lucy, is Metroid Dread.
It happened. Metroid came out. There was a 2D Metroid that we found out about this year. And man, it's such a... I mean, Metroidvanias, that's 2 on your bingo card already today with Ender Lilies and this, but she's back. The Queen is back. Samus is back.
I thought you meant Mrs. Metroid.
Mrs. Metroid is back, and when you think of great game design, you think of Nintendo anyway, but you just think Mercury Steam, who made they remade the Metroid 2 in Samus Returns a couple of years ago, but you just think the step up from that game, which was a remake, but it had its issues, but I thought it was a really good Metroid game anyway. To this, and it's like brand new Metroid game to cap out the series. If there's never a 2D Metroid game again, I'll just walk into the sunset like there must be some vampire film like Blade. Which Blade did they just walk off into the sunset and
Oh,
just
all
like,
of them.
I'm done. Yeah. It's like I'm done, you know. Got nothing else
I mean,
to look
but
for.
Blade is famously a daywalker, so that doesn't mean anything for him.
I had one film where they were just like, oh, I got nothing else to live.
Yeah, I think
Like
it's
in
two.
Pennsylvania that we watched earlier this year, Aadil, when they're just
Oh
like,
yeah.
I'm done. I will walk into the sun and just be
Ah
like,
yeah. I know
If
which
it-
character you're talking about. That was very
Yeah.
poetic. Well, that series has got
That's
legs.
what I'll do. If there's no more 2D Metroids, it's just
Yeah,
like,
but I'm
okay,
reminding
this
that
is the
you
end.
aren't a vampire, so when you say, "Oh, there's no more 2D Metroids," you're just gonna walk outside and be like, "Oh, vitamin D.
That will
This is
also
only
kill
helping
me.
me live."
I'm a gamer. That will also kill me. I've never touched grass,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's so
It's
good.
weed.
Nice.
It's very good. It's
Good.
very good. And like the end, which I'd love to spoil, because
Yeah,
I know
do it.
you two
Fucking
don't
do
care.
it.
I know you two don't care. But shall I do it?
Yeah, do it.
Shall I...
Yeah. So spoiler
She
alert.
turns into
Jump
a
forward a
fucking
minute.
Metroid. She turns into a Metroid.
Really?
Yes. She gets choked out by some bird dude, and he's like,
Wait, so
"Become
there's
your
like
true
autoerotic
self."
asphyxiation and a Metroid
Yes!
transformation?
Yeah, she turns into this parasitic Metroid kind of suit. I would literally throw this statue out the window and never see it again. If someone could give me one of those, you know,
Yeah.
a statue of that suit. Look it up. Put
Oh,
in put in Samus. Do it now. Do it now. Look it up. She turns into a Metroid.
Oh no.
She turns into a Metroid. The thing that she was trying to kill all along,
Like
she
the-
turns into a Metroid.
The ultimate
because
twist
she-
over like what 8 games?
Yes, because the X is hunting her in like fusion, and then she gets injected, and it's like the only way that we can save you is injecting with Metroid blood. And then this bird guy who's actually her dad tries to kill her, and then and he's like, "Find your true self, Samus," and she turns into a Metroid.
My true self is the thing I've been trying to kill all along.
Yeah.
Wow,
Aadil,
that's
do you see
intense.
it? Do you see that suit?
I
You
mean,
see the
kind
Metro-
of. Yeah. I'm
Just
trying to.
put in Metroid Samus suits.
We've got 3 more games to talk about this evening.
Yeah.
I know, but she turns into a Metroid, and it's the best ending. Except they just like say, "Oh, actually, she can turn back into normal Samus," and they just
Oh,
Oh.
you know, completely. If they had stuck that, if they had kept it, you know, okay, she's a Metroid now. What does this mean for the fate
That's
of the
it.
galaxy?
Yeah, she's done like how does that work? Like, yeah.
And the music was better. It would be my favorite game of the year
That's fair.
because it's a perfectly made.
Oh, the
Metroidvania
Birdman's real cute.
game. Look at she turns into a Metroid.
We haven't
Turns
got
into a
long left this
Metroid.
evening.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
let's-
So that's my number 2.
So
it's
Metroid
it's
Metroid
one of the
Samus on your
best
own time.
Metroid games ever made.
That's
It's
fair.
not as good as Ori and the Will-O-Wisp.
Wait. So what you're
Oh.
saying is the best Metroid
Oh.
game is the one where the person people used to mistake for being a Metroid becomes a Metroid. So it's just about idiots not being wrong anymore.
Yeah.
Oh
Ori
yeah,
and the Will-O-
Metroid. The one in the suit.
She turns
Yes.
into a Metroid, but Ori and the Will-O-Wisp is the best Metroid game.
That's fair.
But anyway,
That's fair.
carry on. Yeah, she turns into a Metroid.
So we've
Oh,
alluded
spoilers over.
we've alluded to this game. Aadil, we'll come to you for your favourite game this year.
My top one.
Before your eyes.
Before your eyes, I'll reveal it is before your eyes. I played this game on stream. I played the whole thing.
Mm.
I saw the start of this
Yeah.
because I had started it at that point, and then I was like, I don't want any spoilers. I'll come. And then I caught you at the last of the stream. It's like, oh, he's
And like
crying.
it's one of the like I haven't posted all my first look streams on the YouTube channel. Sometimes just because like time. But this is one where I specifically didn't want to because as Lucy alluded to earlier,
You're a little baby. You're the baby.
Well, you start as a baby,
Okay.
and
You were a baby.
yeah, but like, but I didn't want to ruin the like.
Rightly
It's a
so.
really unique experience. So
Mhm.
for those who don't know, basically, it's an indie game where you are like going through moments in your life. You're on a boat. It's very River Styxy, without cartoon cat,
Really.
but
Yeah.
you're like it's really nice aesthetic,
We used
and
to
you're living
dance
through
as
memories,
well.
and there's a bit of like paying attention to this or that. But the key of this is the game is designed to be played with a webcam because the webcam is doing eye tracking specifically on when you blink, which means when you're going through a memory, as soon as you blink, the memory ends. At certain things, that's like hunt and peck. You can blink all you want, like it's a puzzly sort of point and click ish thing. But at certain moments, you'll start like you'll be in a memory. It's like watching a video, but when you blink, it'll end. So if you want to see more, you have to not blink, and it's incredibly difficult, and it's a strain, and it makes you grounded in those moments, and it makes you be like, ah, fuck, I blinked, and I really
But
care about
but
what's
it's
going on.
okay. But it's okay.
Yeah,
It's
there's
like
nothing like you
if you
don't
do
lose anything.
no, you still get the context of the story if you do
Yep.
blink. You know,
Yeah,
you're not
but I'm just
missing
saying, like,
out on
it's a
anything. The
brilliant
abstract aspect.
mechanic.
Yeah, yeah, fantastic.
And
Like you think, why
narratively,
has nobody ever done this before?
yeah.
And it's like, of course, it would be an indie game to do it,
Well,
and they just do it.
but
They knock it
like,
at the park first time doing it.
Mm.
That's the
yeah,
thing.
and my initial like 20-30 minutes with the game was very much playing with the mechanic. Oh, this is cute. Oh, it sucks that I didn't blink. But then the narrative kicks into gear, and I just was immersed. I was fully immersed in the game, and it's
You
because
have
of the
to
gameplay.
be.
But like, that's the thing is, like, you can play
Mm,
it with a mouse and clicking.
that's yeah.
You can't. This
Don't
game needs
recommend
like
anybody do that. Yeah.
two things. Play this.
Buy
Well,
a
three things.
webcam. Buy a
Yeah,
webcam if you
get a
need to.
webcam.
Yeah.
Like, play this game without spoilers. Like, buy the game, play the game without spoilers. You play with a webcam. It's really emotionally affecting. It's not as straightforward as you think if you just play the first like 45 minutes. Like, it's
There's
really
yeah.
smartly dealing with the idea of being someone who's reckoning their life at the end, right? Because that's the conceit. You're on the boat, right? And the boat driver's like, if I can get an impressive person, I'll be in a good place, and you'll be in a good place to the big boss. That's the conceit. But like
Basically, Saint Nicholas, whoever he is, not Christmas guy. Saint.
St. Peter,
Yeah.
yeah. And I don't want to spoil anything. I'm just saying, like, that it's really well written, and that gameplay dynamic is really great. I will, I think, before the year is out, I think I might I've been saying this for a while now, but I'm just gonna put a video on our YouTube of my first like 10 minutes, find a spot, and then me reacting in the credits, because I am, you can see, I'm just
Baby.
emotionally like,
Little baby.
whoa, I was
Yeah.
fully done in by that
It
game
got me.
in a
It
way
got
that
me.
I have.
Yeah. It got me a few times. I didn't shed tears, but it got me. You know,
Yeah,
choking up.
I think I would have cried if I wasn't on stream, but I definitely teared up. Or like,
Yeah.
it's a fantastic game, and it's because of the quality of the writing and this very unique game design being perfectly matched with that writing.
Yes.
That's like,
Yes.
just play this game.
Nice.
The only yes, I agree. The only thing that I had, not against it, but it was like, okay, if you want me to get choked up and cry, there's one thing that you can do. There's one storyline that you can do, and I felt, not that it was cheap, but I was like, oh yeah, of course I'd be upset about it. Of course, this is what I'd be specifically upset about.
But we won't say
Anybody.
what that is. Yeah.
I'm not going to say what that is, but it's like anybody with a pulse. It's like, yes, I would, be upset about this kind of thing. So,
And of course, like, spoiler alert, but someone said Xboxes were better than PSs.
That's it. Ruined it.
Yeah,
Done.
it's a fantastic game. As I said, it's one that will stick with me from now till the end of time. And
I think the eye strain is so weird, but
it's
it
something that a
works.
game can do, but especially how it inverts that kind of mechanic at the end. It's just
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's one of
It's a
those things
really
where
special
I can only talk around it because I really think
Agreed.
it's good enough that you should just go in blind.
Mm.
Anyway, yeah, that's my top game of the year.
Good. So I will come on to mine.
Great game.
Yeah, I'll come on to mine because I think the final game we're talking about is it's just phenomenal. But kind of it's again. You have a Wii, right? You have a Wii.
I know about this game.
Yeah. So I absolutely love Death's Door. I think it's a fucking fantastic game. I think it's paced incredibly well. I think the gameplay is fantastic. The way that the world is constructed is amazing. So it's sort of this isometric action game. It's a little bit kind of Zelda. It's a little bit Dark Soulsy. You're playing this crow and you have to reap sort of souls, and you get pulled into this bigger narrative to then walk around the world. But it sets its levels, and the world is built in such a really good way that I'm constantly like kind of, even though it's semi-open, you're signposted and pulled through it very, very well. And as you play as the crow, like your progression and the way that you gain abilities and things happens very fluidly and very easily. And Death's Door kind of has this kind of like beautiful humour to it. It's very dark in what it does, but it has this excellent sarcasm to it at points, and it just takes the piss out of you at other kind of points. Like there's a lot of humour in the writing, but I think just the writing matched with that gameplay. And I don't know, Lucy, you've got a little bit of an issue with the kind of like the sort of the map design and the gameplay and stuff.
Yeah, I'm not going to talk because I know it's your favorite game of the year, so I'd never want to tell you all my issues. Yes, yuck, somebody's on. Say all my issues with it, but I will say the penultimate boss in that game is probably one of the best bosses that I've faced.
Absolutely, yes, completely. And I think they do very well at progressing the bosses as well. Like, the way that you learn kind of the mechanics in that game as well is very good in terms of just the progression through the levels that you get. You know how it opens up different things to you. It has an excellent level of progression in that, and it also is excellent in that you finish that game, and then it goes, "Hey, here's another game afterwards." And you're like, "Oh wait, shit! Oh, okay, I can go through this whole world again, doing another game on top of this." Like this, the same kind of base mechanics and those kinds of things, but opens up the narrative a little bit more and gets you to go back to places and basically says, "Here's more game if you want it." Like, yeah, sure, you finished it, but there's much more to this if you want to experience that. And I'm like, yes, I absolutely do. And that really pulled me in. I'm like, I thought I'd done this, and I'm like, oh no, shit.
Did you go back to the levels and get the upgrades or during
a lot of it I'd done the upgrades before I went to sort of like the penultimate boss and then and through and stuff. So I played a lot of it and gone to different areas, and there's lots of sort of like these Metroidvania elements to it as well. Like you can't go past this unless you've got this upgraded item over here from this kind of boss or this sort of area. So I think it just paces itself and builds its world very, very well. It's definitely my favourite action game this year.
Really, yeah. I mean, a lot of people liked that game, so you're not alone.
Yeah,
but I have issues, as you say. I have issues with the game. I don't want to talk about them there because
that's fine. No, absolutely.
It absolutely does not matter, and I'm glad that it had such an affecting and lasting impression on you. But I will say, if I want to take your excitement for that game, and I can like kind of transpose it on like everything around that I felt about that penultimate boss fight, because that was
Yes.
wicked.
Yeah.
The art design, the mechanics of it, and then superb.
Yeah.
I'd say that's the only point that I enjoyed about that game, but it was wicked, and it was a high point of that game. If the whole game was like that, I'd be where you were at.
Yeah. That's
but
fair.
Just that alone makes it very memorable.
Good.
So
so then the final game for us to talk about, which I would suggest during our conversation now, is a game that maybe we would have talked about in a previous week, being maybe the next episode that we come to talk about when I will
hold you two to hostage.
Yeah.
And we have to talk about it when you finish it.
So we will. You can go back and listen to maybe a bigger conversation about this, about Inscription, because I know Lucy and Aadil, you've both finished it. I'm currently in the third act, having beaten a couple of bosses, and having experienced kind of what that is kind of giving me. But without spoiling it too much, both Lucy, this was your top game. Aadil, I think this was second for you in the list.
And and for me, again, it was the fact that like the emotional impact of Before Your Eyes was just a thing that games rarely do to me, and that's why it hit the top spot. Technically and scopally, if that was a word, like Inscription's, like I get why it's Lucy's top game. There's a reason why it's my number 2, and it would be my number 1 in any other year, except I had this very strong visceral reaction to the uniqueness of the thing we just talked about. But also like that matters, right? Like the subjectivity of that. So I was in it was February of 2021 or March or whatever, and like my headspace, that game hit me really hard. Inscription is more complex, more dynamic, more interesting, and more widely scoped, and I think in most mindsets it would probably have been my number 1 because it's just so well done. And like the central conceit is you wake up in a cabin and you play Slay the Spire, but then you stop playing Slay the Spire.
And Lucy, why is this number 1?
I don't know. He's the Mr. Magic Man.
No! I want to hear it from him. But if I talk about like card games, etc., as a card game person, people get the wrong idea, because the point is you who fucking hate card games. Like, you are the person people want to hear from, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. It works on both ends of the scale. Like, I've been watching Markiplier play that game, like big YouTuber. I've been playing Waypoint play that game. I've joined the subreddit of Inscription.
Really?
There's so many different ways that game can play out, depending on what skill level. I am replaying it right now. It's like the reason I was late to this week's podcast spoilers is because I was playing Inscription, and an hour passed by, and I was like, "Holy crap! I'm set up." But it's just like I'm just playing Inscription, so I'm replaying.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
But it can go so many different ways depending on your skill level. Like some people are just like bossing the game. It's like they know what to do. They know how to break the game immediately. And they do, and the game will punish you for that. Not punish you for that, but it'll respond to like, no, you can't do that. You have to see this part of the game. Whereas me, an absolute rube, who's like, I got to the first boss of that game. Not the first boss. The first time I beat Act 1, it was like, hold on, have I just broken the game? I got this infinite squirrel, as you did, Dill, and I told you that is by design. It expects you to beat that part of the game, and that is not the only way you can like destroy the game. And it's like depending on your skill level, it's like yes, you can beat the game in this way. You can break the game in this way. You can do that, this and that, and it all plays into this meta narrative. It's like this is how we play card games, and this is how we're literally obsessed and just neurotic. In this kind of sense of like building decks, doing the best you can in a card game, etc., etc. And it's like, it for me, who's like someone who's like, I said like the first couple times I was like, oh, I can't wait to build my deck because I know all the different ways that you can
Do that.
all these different cards, all the ways that you can do that. It's like the first part of the game doesn't let you do that. But then you get to like the second part of the game,
say,
it lets
like-
you do that.
Yeah.
And it's like
Yeah.
someone who's me, who is like very critical of card games where it's like depending on the deck that you have. And I don't like that. I prefer a game of like skill, like poker. It's just like
Yeah,
Magic
I mean,
is not that.
but it is, right? It's about deck
It
building
is,
and
but it's
randomness
just-
is in all those things. But I get what you're
Yeah,
saying.
yeah.
Like it's
Where
the
it's like-
how much of the randomness are you happy?
Exactly. And it's
Yeah.
like even the characters are like saying like, oh yeah, you just got good orange. And just
Yeah.
like, you know,
Yeah.
some of the characters are just like bad misplaying
yeah.
and it's just like, yeah, it's just so good. It's so good at that poking fun of the card game meta narrative and like card game mechanics whilst also being a fantastic
Well,
card game at the same
yeah.
time.
So what I want to say is like, no, like plot spoilers, but like Act 1 is Slay the Spire essentially, right? It's
Yeah.
like get through this randomized route, loop until you figure it out. You can slowly get better. Act 2 is a riff on Magic, which they've said, right? Because and it's so great design wise because so it's a collectible card game versus a deck building game.
Yes.
And
Because
watching like
you open
Waypoint
booster
play
packs
it,
and you get random things, and then you can either choose to put them in your deck or not. But what's great about it is, from a like that game, from Inscription's design, no one can't get through Act 2 because you just grind games and get packs and get more and more powerful cards.
I've
Which
been watching
is
the
one of the
Waypoint
complaints.
stream.
Oh
And
yeah.
they've literally broken the game where they get infinite bones.
Oh,
and
there's all
they
kinds
get
of ways you get
infinite
infinite.
foils.
Oh yeah.
And they've
That's
just
Magic.
gone into the but they've gone into the method. The thing, the whole thing, the commentary of the game is like this is that unhealthy obsession with card games.
Oh
Do
yeah.
not collect them all, and they collect them all.
But, like,
it's so good.
So like what I really like about it is it is exposing that
yeah,
by making it a way of progressing through the game, but also, as you point out, like you can find stupid infinite loop. You can do the dumb
Yeah.
shit. Like and the only way you can like it exposes both the good things about things like Magic and the bad things while also letting you enjoy the game. And if you didn't give a shit, you could just go through and it'd be
Exactly.
mildly different from Act 1.
Yeah.
And I find that like it should be such a hard needle to thread, and it's not. It's just so
Done
easily
so
done.
well.
Like,
yeah.
I'm not gonna because Ben's in Act 3, but also like
Some of
the
the
game
best
changes again in Act
mechanical
3.
things
Yeah,
happen in Act 3, and
Yeah.
it's so good.
it's such a good game because every level of the game is about knowing that you're at that level of the game, but also it making sense with the narrative. That's why
Yep.
I fucking love this game. And that's why like Lucy, who doesn't like card games, can still fall into the trap, right?
But
Yes.
it's not like it's not a card game. It's a narrative experience, right?
Yeah,
Yes, it is a card game,
FMV.
but it's
I mean, if you
built
want me to
around
love a
this narrative.
game, you put FMV in a game. If you want me to love a game, you put FMV in it, and they did. And it's like, cool.
I love
Yeah.
those little interstitial moments, kind of like watch these
it's so
8
well
videos,
acted.
and you can only actually
Yeah.
watch 3 of them because the rest
just
of them
like-
all error out. But actually, if you watch them, it errors out for 5 seconds. Then we'll show you a clip of this code on a piece of paper,
Yeah.
and
I
then
have
we'll error out.
notes.
And
I have a
Oh,
notepad.
I'm watching all of
I
this.
have
Exactly. I'm
pictures
like,
on my
pause,
phone.
pause,
Yeah.
pause at exactly the right time so it's all
The
fucking
ARG
legible.
stuff,
What
I
do I
was
need
like-
to? Yeah. What do I need to know about this? Like, I love that. I love how it builds, and each act kind of builds on top of that, and on top of that, and on top of that, and it has this central sort of story that rolls through with it as well. It's made so fucking well.
Yeah, it's so
It's
well.
incredible, and it
It,
if
it,
it beat
it-
Metroid, and then
yeah, completely. And it's that
It's
that
a
game,
card game.
that I absolutely, if I finish out of those 3, you know, the ones that I haven't finished this year, Deathloop, Resi Village, and Inscription. Inscription is number 1 to
Yeah.
you were saying
get
that you
through.
had fever dreams about. I had fever dreams
Yes,
about it every
yeah.
time I didn't finish it.
Yeah.
It's just like I need.
So it's definitely the one
Players.
to hit.
I want to say one more thing, which is like Act 2 I breezed through.
I
But
breezed through
also-
Act 2 and no, start of Act 2, I struggled, and then I started building my deck.
Yes.
And I was like, this is so flipping
But so
satisfying.
what I found the most
I
frustrating
I
part.
chose PO3 for first, and that's why I blew through.
Gotcha.
rest
Yeah,
of
because
it.
I struggled a bit because I was still trying to do what I enjoyed doing in Act 2. But like,
You went for the hardest class.
so in Act
Dan,
2,
what
I
did
went
you
for the
go for?
hardest class, but also that's how I
Hmm.
play Magic.
Yeah, I
And
know. You're difficult.
I did not. I played a control deck. So like, there's different archetypes in these games, and one is control, where you play as little as possible, and you just make sure that the other person can't do anything. It's like kill spells and cancel spells and whatever. And so I just played a very. I'm always gonna have cards in my hand, and I'm gonna grind you out game, and I just ground out the only hiccup in Act 2 was where I couldn't figure out how to like what I needed to do to trigger an event to have a fight.
Yeah.
Because all the fights I just won almost, like I like repeated two
Yeah.
fights in the entire act. The rest was just like,
Wow.
nope, I won. Nope, I won.
Yeah, that
And
was
my
like
deck barely
me in the
changed after
third
like
act.
yeah.
Whereas the second act, I struggled more.
Yeah,
And,
but the
yeah.
thing is, when I talked to Lucy about it, she was like, "Oh, like there are 4 tribes essentially, where within them there's different ways of playing, but they have very different, like, it's like there's if you play with this deck to start with, you're gonna have certain resources. Play with this deck, it'll be different, and you can mix and match and make your own deck. And like my biggest complaint was like, I wanted to live in Act 2. I want to be able to boot into Act 2 and then try other decks. Because what ended up happening was I didn't have to change my deck at all after about 5 fights. I was just like, yeah, I can grind you all out. I figured this out. It's not like fast, but I will not lose, and I didn't. But then Lucy was like, "Oh, I did this other thing." I'm like, I've never played with robots. What do you mean robots? And they have this whole other they have their this whole other way of like resource management.
Yeah, that's
Which
the crazy
which
thing
kicks
they
in
built.
Act 3, right?
And
Like, so much of it like comes
That's why
back
I
through.
stormed through Act 3, and it's
yeah,
just
because
like
you picked
you
in
can-
Act 2 the right
yeah. And it's like there's 4 different ways you can play in that. You can play the same you do with Act 1 or a different way. So that's why I'm replaying it. And it's like I've died in the first act probably about more times that I should have, but I don't care because it's so satisfying, it's so fun. And I mean, Daniel Mullins said it's like, okay, there weren't as many bugs in the game as I, thought there'd be. Probably don't need to do another patch. Maybe I'll work on something else, and I want to see what. That is.
Absolutely.
I want to play. I want an endless way.
We will get a little bit more. Or listener, you may have heard us already talk about Inscription, just that little bit more in one of the previous episodes as well. But we will get a little bit more into the spoilers of Inscription and things once I
really wanted to. Ben,
I want
next week,
Ben,
Lucy.
I know you have.
By next
you have
week,
a life and things.
yes,
but,
by next week I would have finished it. Which means that listeners, a couple of weeks ago, we would have talked about this game a little bit more.
It's
but
fine. Let's not metagame ourselves.
Yeah, for this year, for 2021, all of us had Inscription on our favourite games of the year, and Inscription hits out the highest in aggregate for all of us. So Inscription is tanked up 2021 game. No, it absolutely is.
I don't believe in that because. As Aadil said, if I had played Before Your Eyes when he played it, that early on in the year before I played Ender Lilies and Retro Dread, it might have been my number 1. So no aggregate, Death's Door,
that's fair.
Inscription, and
I'm going to pick up Death's Door and a couple other ones. I think just based on our tops.
They're all Game of the Year.
Nice. We're not going to run through our beers for the evening. It's our end of year show. We've just hang out and drunk some beers. But if
Flanders is the best for me.
We're not going to do this, but also this.
If you want to get a hold of us, you can go to @TankedUpCast to look at all the shows that we put out and give us a shout. Come and play some games with us. Come and hang out with us in our Discord. Do all of those sorts of things. But this has been our end of year show. We've enjoyed hanging out with you again for another year. We love you all. Because it's the end of the year, do either of you have a final thing to say? Lucy, anything you want to finish out on?
You lot are the highlight of my year every year. I love you both.
Amazing.
You two are the highlight of my weeks. Most weeks. Sometimes I go home to Canada and see my mom and dad, and But also, yeah, this is great. It's always great. I love you. And Tanked Up, year, I don't even know, 7? What are we on?
Yeah, maybe 6.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Seems like you need to put this dog down at this point.
But yeah, have a good Christmas and a New Year, and we'll talk again
Stay
soon.
safe, yeah, everybody.
Because of the way things are, chances are the games these two have been talking about are going to be on my list next year.
Perfect. We love you all. We'll see you all very, very soon. Have an excellent Christmas and New Year, and we will catch you in 2022. Oh, it's so come around so quickly.
That doesn't sound right.
That does not sound right. We'll see you all very, very soon. Thank you for joining us. We've been Tanked Up. Bye-bye.
Bye. Oh, wait. Ciao.
2022.
www.outoflives.net